order the Select Board meeting for August 25th, 2026. I am Travis Snell. I'm acting chair because our chair, Christina Stevens, is absent tonight for a work commitment. And also Dave Thomas is out on vacation. So it is just the three of us tonight.
All right. Watch out.
Yeah, let's get some stuff done.
Yeah, all right, all right. They don't know what they're missing. Just quickly run through the agenda. We're going to have community input, appointments, then introduction to our IT provider, retrofit. We'll have a meeting with the Municipal Facilities Committee, then a meeting with the Historic Commission, then Community Preservation Committee recommendations, cemetery, the National Register proposal, close the warrant for the special town meeting, and then the town administrator report, and at the end, we'll do review warrants and minutes, liaison reports, and any other community input. So with that, I will start and ask, is there anyone who has community input? If you wanted to raise your hand. And Christina, why don't you come forward, please, just and introduce yourself and your name and street. We generally allow 2 minutes for this.
I'll be quick.
Okay.
Christina Christodolopoulos, Hemlock Hill Road, co-chair of the Environmental Sustainability Committee. And based on discussions at a previous select board meeting, it was revealed that there might be a potential conflict between spring town meeting and Route to Sustainability Day. And the ESC co-chair, speaking for Eric as well, respectfully request that the annual town meeting date determination be placed on the September 8th select board meeting agenda. Because we need to begin reaching out to potential feature attraction entities. So we need to lock in the date as soon as possible. We also respectfully request that Route to Sustainability Day can remain on the first Sunday afternoon in May for reasons that I've actually outlined in a letter, because I don't want to take up your time right now. Of course, if you'd like, I can get into it briefly, but I'll just hand this out.
Thank you.
Not the most sustainable, but at least it's double-sided.
Paper's recyclable.
They're stuck. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
There we go. Thank you. And I do have 2 more copies for Christine and Dave. Thank you so much. So that was
Great.
it. Thank you so much.
Okay, we will consider that. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Christina. All right, is there anyone else in the room or anyone online who would like to make a public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our appointments. I think we have 3, Ryan, is that right?
Yes, we have
3 for the.
Oh, you have 4, and that's going to come later in the historical commission section of the meeting. So all 3 are from the Cultural Council and have been vetted, and I see Mark is also here for any questions from the Cultural Council.
Great. Anyone?
I would just ask, Mark, I assume the Cultural Council has recommended all of these candidates?
Yeah, we voted unanimously to recommend them. I've also met with all of them at length, and they're actually very, very strong candidates with marketing, graphics, and a lot of computer technology background, electronic music festival organization, fundraising. I mean, we couldn't be luckier because we just lost 3 very strong members in June. So it's all good.
Fantastic. Okay,
On a motion?
sure.
So I move to appoint Christine Winders of Maple Street to the Cultural Council with a term to end June 30th, 2029.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor? Say
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. All right.
I move to appoint Alexander Sacha Panic of River Road to the Cultural Council with a term to end June 30th, 2029.
Second.
Any discussion? All right. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay.
And then, please correct me if I mispronunciate, move to appoint Zulika?
Zuleika, actually, and Sasha's last name is Panich.
Oh.
Reads panic, but he's not panicking. He's Panich.
Oh, I'm sorry. Panich. Okay.
Okay.
You said Zuleika?
Zuleika.
Zuleika. Move to appoint Zuleika Rendall of Aberdeen Drive to the Cultural Council with a term to end June 30th, 2029.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I, late.
Any opposed? All right, carries.
If I could just add one date to put in your calendars, the annual Cultural Council reception will be at Clark Farm on September 23rd at 4:30 to 6 o'clock in the afternoon. And that's when we honor our grant recipients, and everybody's welcome.
And just repeat that time, is it 4:30, is that what you said, 4:30 to 6?
4:30 p.m., yes.
4:30
Yeah.
to 6, okay. Great, thank you.
Thank you all.
Yep,
Thanks,
thank
Mike.
you. All right, well, we're running ahead of schedule, but I don't think that that's a problem for our next agenda item, because it's not a hearing. So, if you'd like to come forward, please, and introduce yourself, and maybe,
Right.
yeah, right there,
Okay.
there's a microphone, that's why it just
Okay.
picks it up. And maybe Ryan can give some background after you've introduced, or vice versa.
You want to go first?
Yeah, so in small towns, you often have employees replaced by contracts and vendors. So rather than a IT director, we have a full suite with retrofit and their services under a contract. However, IT being a very important function of the town, we wanted to make sure that you had a chance to have a meet and greet with the company, see their presentations, offerings, ask questions specifically. I know you have a lot of questions about security and the like, and we'll share as much as we can. But this is for you to be comfortable with who's running our IT and to ask any questions you might have.
Lisa, please. That's me.
Fantastic.
Matt Higgs. I'm you guys' account manager with Retrofit Technologies. We are extremely excited to be working with you guys. We just finished onboarding. Couple hiccups throughout that, but nothing that we haven't seen before. Give you a little background on us and then myself. So on Retrofit, we've been in business since 1983. Actually, Ryan, if you want to pull that up.
I am right now.
Yep. Please tell me I sent them the right one. Yes. Okay. So we've been in business since 1983. Work with over 150 municipalities and school districts. We also work with, like, my bread and butter personally, I work with mostly municipalities and commercial vendors, manufacturing, things like that. We are certified WBE, although the company was founded by Tim Lawler back in 1983. Jackie Lawler, his daughter, bought the company back in 2021, and she's been running it since then. As far as how many employees, we have roughly 45 employees. We're all based out of Taunton, Massachusetts. Beautiful thing about us, you'll see it later, we do not outsource anything that we use with you guys to anybody. Anytime that we bring in a third-party contractor, you're notified well in advance, and it's for very minute things, but as far as your data and your security, that is all handled in-house by us. Little background on me. I came from the beer industry before this, but before that I was in the military, like me and Ryan were talking about. I was in the Army for 8 years, which was 7 years and 364 days too long by my standards. But yeah, then I sold beer for about 10 years, decided that neither my wallet nor my body could take it anymore. So I got out of that and got into technology. Worked at Konica for about 2 years selling copiers, and I will never sell a printer ever again. So Ryan, if you need one of those, I'll have to connect you with somebody else.
Sure.
And I've been a Retrofit for about 2 years now. Absolutely love it. Was really happy that we got to take you guys on. And then we'll kind of go to the next slide. Any on our history or anything like that before I move on? Okay, great. So, beautiful thing about us, everything is simple. Now that everything's onboarded, everything that you guys are going to have to do with us is simple. Any of your, technology devices have an issue, all you have to do is put in a ticket. Pretty much everything that is in here that is connected to your network, we handle. Your switches, your servers, your firewalls, all of your workstations that are connected to the network, we can see them and we can help deal with them. Putting in a ticket could not be simpler. That'll be at the very last slide. But whenever you actually do get a ticket, you're not talking to someone over in another country. If you call in, you will get either Tony or Jamie. And that's how I know how good it is, because I can tell you the exact two people that you're going to talk to when you call into the office. They will immediately diagnose the situation and hand it off to an engineer, or if it's something as simple as a password reset, our dispatcher can actually just handle that right over the phone. Go on to the next one. So everything's based out of Taunton. All of our solutions architects, all of our engineers. The only two exceptions to that, we have one solutions architect who works remote out of North Carolina, and one level 1 engineer who does tickets who works out of Georgia. Reason for that, Jackie didn't want to lose them. They wanted to move down south to escape housing prices. I can't blame them for that. They still do check in up here every now and then, but that is just me being fully transparent. Those are the only two employees that do not live in Massachusetts. Oh, sorry, I think we have somebody in Rhode Island. I'll forgive him for that. Then you can go to the next one. And this is the main thing that you need with us. Those are the 3 ways that you can submit a ticket. Fastest way is going to be number 1. That you'll be connected directly to a live person. The only exception for that would be, and the people I need to talk to about that really are in this room, is for the police department. If they ever needed to put in something after hours, there's a little different procedure that is billable, because we don't have you guys as a 24/7 shop. But even though it's not in your contract, someone still is available 24/7 with us. If you call at 3 o'clock in the morning, it'll say someone will call you back. I believe our SLA time after hours is 30 minutes. Someone will call you back and see if they can fix your problem. And then that is me on the left, and then on the right is Jamie. Now, she's on vacation, so she wasn't able to join tonight. She is the manager of what I call the chaotic life of the operations center. If there's a problem, even though one of her team is handling it, she is aware of everything that is going on. And that's it.
Okay.
That's us.
Great. Thank you.
Questions?
You want to lead off, or?
You can lead off.
I'm good. You have any-
I guess the question to Ryan that we could start with is, I know we made this change because we weren't getting the level of service we demanded from our previous provider. Any early goings? How has this transition gone over with the employees? Have we had to submit any tickets, or are we really in the early phases of this?
During the transition time, there were a lot of tickets. I would say, no more than usual from my perspective. But some of the employees did experience some stuff as it was transferred from the 20 to retrofit, and there was a problem with Microsoft licensing, but we dealt with that. But from my perspective, these are things that happen when you onboard a new company. We do like that people respond to our emails and requests. That's very nice. And I've already had a quarterly business meeting, which was part of the procurement we did, to make sure that we have just constant eyes on our technology, what's being done. And as part of that meeting, we learned how many of our systems are not being rebooted timely so that they get the patches and security updates they need. And we are going to be reviewing IT, especially replacing units pretty regularly, which should give us more insight into capital and any problems that we can get ahead of. These are all things we were trying to do. And when we were with DriveTech, which I know was a locally sourced option for a long time in Carlisle, the relationship was great, but when they were sold out, that's where we started to lose some of our service capabilities. So when we did switch, we did competitively procure this. We interviewed several teams of providers and found retrofit to be the best fit for us.
He still won't tell me which ones were the other ones.
You'll never know.
I do have to hand it to your employees. When we implemented the security training that happens every month, when all of the employees got it, he has them so well trained that they all submitted it to us thinking that it was fraudulent. Every single employee.
Gretchen has them so well trained.
Okay. And Jamie even said, I appreciate their thoroughness, but please let them know that that is the legitimate training that is going on. Yeah, they all thought it was a phishing attempt. I've been here for 2 years. Even our owner, who's been, even though it was her dad's company, she's been at the company since 2009. She's like, I've never seen that once. So, well done, employees of Carlisle.
So Christina gave me some questions to ask, but I think that they're just in a way really general to what the select board has asked for in the past.
Sure.
We had several years ago, maybe first year you were here, set up a goal like we're going to have cybersecurity. We're going to have, somehow that made it on the list, but it wasn't like a high. But we're going to pay attention because, you know, ransom attacks, these types of cyber attacks have been, you know, notable in the paper, and towns are held to, you know, for ransom, and you have to get it back. So do you have protections in place for that?
Yes.
Is there a process, and maybe are you working with Ryan and the staff to deal with that? What's that look like?
So when it comes to that, I don't know if it's made the news. I'm not allowed to share who it is, but let's just say a municipality in Massachusetts recently, I believe it was 3 weeks ago, actually got hit by a ransomware attack. We do handle some of their IT. The part that we handle that is the most important is that we handle their backup. And the way that you could, there's only so much you can do to prevent a ransomware attack. It's layers of security, end user education, things like that. But sometimes it does happen. But the other layer of that security is that you have successful backups in there to where we can go back to just before the ransomware was even installed and reboot your system back up. And that way you don't even have to worry about, you know, paying a ransom or anything like that. That's what we had to do for this municipality. Luckily we had successful backups. There are some other solutions that we have floated to him as, you know, other layers of security, but obviously cost is a factor. But the solution that is in place now, especially with the backup, that can help mitigate some of those risks when it comes to ransomware and anything like that. The biggest thing I always say is end user education, which I'm not worried about the town of Carlisle's employees, especially after seeing that. It's preventing people from clicking on something that they shouldn't.
Are you going to be doing, or maybe an evaluation of of our overall security, or not? Or have you already done that? As
Yeah,
part
we've
of
already
onboarding?
done that. Yep, we already did that as part of your onboarding, and that's why also the continued, like, that security training is not only is it monthly training, but it's also bi-monthly. There's actually a email campaign that goes out, and we can tell exactly who opened it, and more importantly, who clicked on it. So I believe yours is coming next month. So the first training was this month, and then next month I believe the email campaign goes out. So we'll see. I highly doubt anyone's going to click on it from this place.
Our users, well, we have email users, does that matter? Because the email users extend beyond the staff, like I have an email address, right? Like I didn't get a security training thing, I mean, I get them, you know, elsewhere, but I didn't get one from you guys. Is that a risk, like that that we have users with these email addresses that are not?
So I can speak to my level of
Okay.
knowledge.
Or you can answer it, I don't know.
If you access our Microsoft products, we have multi-factor authentication to protect the network, but really the network users are the ones
Okay,
that
so network users.
need the main
Yep.
training.
All right.
And you're not going to be surprised to hear me say this, but every employee that is under your appointment or my appointment authority is required to complete the training and continual training as a prerequisite of being employed. Everybody who is not, it can be a mixed bag, but we do try to help them make sure that they complete all their training. We can't compel them though.
Thank you.
And as a point to what you guys were saying, because I know that you're looking for even beefier training, so to speak, I'm actually working with Barracuda right now to come up with a kind of a custom solution for you guys here. For that, I actually just spoke to my rep on Friday. So I will be in touch with, I was going to talk to Gretchen today, but obviously she's dealing with some personal stuff right now. So I'll be talking to her whenever she gets back.
The main point that we make is you cannot get on the network unless you've completed your training, so we don't let new employees in until they train. And then annually, it's part of the Big Five training, or the ones that we emphasize, because we're balancing annoying the employees and taking away their time with the many, many trainings that are required. But this is, if it's not number one, it's number two.
You mentioned requiring periodic reboots of systems and
Mhm.
to ensure updates are installed. I know, as you mentioned, one of the main points of vulnerability is in user error or user behavior, not updating their computers and or not changing their passwords or using very simple passwords or even putting them on a sticky on their monitor,
Yep.
which has been known to happen. So with this system, it sounds like you initiate reboots and updates. You're able to do that with your software. And then do you
Yep.
require password updates by the users on a periodic basis?
So that is through your tenant. Your tenant will require that.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and we manage your guys' tenant for you. We can change the policy. Right now, it is set to the NIST requirements. Oh God.
Just say NIST, it's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Numbers, symbols, all
Yeah.
that, yeah.
So it's set to that right now. I believe the current standard is 14 characters. Right? Yes. Yeah. It's brutal. Changed every 90 days.
Okay.
So that's what mine's set at too for our work. I've dealt with some cybersecurity providers who are insane and think you should have 30 characters.
That is insane.
Yes, it is. But no, yeah. So we stick with NIST guidelines because for us, if that's what's good, for Washington D.C., I think it's good for us here too.
Are you going to be working with, is it retrofit? Sorry, I didn't.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah.
Got it.
No worries.
So to develop a plan for, like modernization of the systems we have, as well as terminals, desktops, all that stuff, or how does that work internally?
So Gretchen completes an annual inventory of all of our equipment, and we compare that to our provider and what we're paying for, but also what we have. And then we create a capital plan based off that, an internal 5-year capital plan with now police and us. Fire is still a separate thing, and so is library and school, but I'm talking town hall and public safety here. What I like so far about retrofit is they're partners in that, and it's not just me and Gretchen developing that, which worked for a little bit, but we do need that expertise for the longer term plan. And one of the things we identified recently is, all of our equipment is at the school and all of our end users are here, so how do you make sure there's proper backup, et cetera? So we need expertise on that and how to protect it.
Yeah, so the specific incident, a server needed to be rebooted, and that server physically is at the school. And I get you have space constraints here. We just weren't made aware of or we were, but it wasn't communicated. There was a lapse in communication, mostly on our part, I think, as to who our contact is over there to just say, hey, I just need someone to physically go log in and reboot the server. Mm-hmm. We might look into plans as to if we can eventually get something like that into the cloud or into Azure, just to get it out of there. But for now, I do believe that server is relatively new, so that's not top on the priority list right now.
Does the service encompass the school, or they have a separate?
Separate.
Okay.
It's just physically housed there, just because they at the time they didn't have the space here. We might look into seeing if we can move it over here, but for now, I think let sleeping dogs lie right now for that one over there.
Do we feel like the school is adequately protected?
I wouldn't know.
So it's just physically powered over there. It's not connected to.
No, I'm just worried about the school, its network and its systems and.
Yeah.
I have full
Oh,
faith in
I
Scott.
have no insight into that.
What's
No.
that?
I have full faith in Scott, who is the IT
Okay.
director at the school. But we are managing 4 environments in town.
Yeah. Okay.
So over time, this would be one that may be a good candidate for regionalization or
Or at least
shared
internal sharing.
services.
Yeah.
Shared services.
There are some things to work out, and I think a longer term approach to that would be effective. It's an Apple environment at the school versus a PC environment here. The fire is a closed network that's not accessible, and then the library is managed very cheaply through the consortium that handles all regional libraries. So difficult to combine it's combined as it can be for now. The next big one would be school in town, but there's things to work out there. I think a 5 to 10 year approach to that would be smart. Trying to force it in a year or two, you would be repetitive with capital investments and really upset a lot of people, so.
I have one more question.
Yes.
So when, I'm trying to think, several years ago when we had this, we had a rating of our cybersecurity. Like they tested, they tried to test. Does your firm do that? Have you tested us yet, or?
So we'll be testing them.
Oh,
Yeah.
is that how it works? Okay, I was just.
Bring it.
Don't say that, man.
We should click on all the links that we get.
Yeah, it's a pretty standard.
This is on recording, right?
Pretty standard testing model in the Commonwealth.
Okay.
We just want to make sure that we have all the security in place, but from what we've seen so far, it's the same or better. So.
To answer your question, we're actually one of the IT companies that does that check, but obviously in this instance, we wouldn't be allowed to check ourselves. One of our ironically, one of our competitors would have to check us.
Yeah.
And I told Matt when we were switching, and I mean it, we would be willing to trade the niceness of instant access to IT versus security. Like security is more important.
Yeah.
We'd like to have both, and that's what we're hoping to get here. But we weren't willing to sacrifice security in order to have faster ticketing. But I guess that's something we should have expected.
Can you give us just a broad brush look of as to your contract? So is it you have so many hours that you get with them, or how does that work? Just general,
To really get it down to what I think you're asking, as long as they don't need to come here physically, it's covered. And there's not a ton of time where they would need to physically come here to do something.
Right.
And then big projects are also quoted out. If we were installing a new server for a new service we were adding and there was hours of work, they would quote that work. If we're installing a new system, there's a set rate for that, that we know we have to pay. But it's pretty all-inclusive.
I think the big risk is the cyber ransomware attack, and all
Yep.
of a sudden the computers are seized up, and you have to. So that would be kind of covered. That's already in their contract, and you're.
So in regards to a full restore, that is billable, although it's not a whole lot of time that goes into that. But any issues that happen with workstations, if a workstation needs to be rebooted from, and all that kind of stuff, that is generally included in everything. The beautiful thing is we will not move an inch when it comes to something that's billable until we get his authorization. And we've even been known to find workarounds to keep things from being billable, or at least I have. I know that towns have strict budgets. I'm not trying to blow your guys' bank out.
Well, we also want to make sure we have a plan in place so that when something happens, we can
Yep.
address it quickly.
If we were hit with a ransomware attack and we did have to go to a backup, how long are municipalities' systems down for? Like you said, we do backups regularly. Is it a day, 2 days, 3 days? Like, what can you expect?
So obviously it's very situational dependent, but I can tell you when it comes to that other municipality, we figured it out that they had been contacted, and we figured it out actually just before they were contacted, and I think they could tell that we figured out that they were in the system, this bad actor, and so they immediately then contacted the town to try and see if they could just get money out of them, but we were essentially already onto them. That was at around, I believe, 7 o'clock in the morning. It was on a Friday a few weeks ago. And I believe we had them back fully restored with a new fresh backup, removed of the ransomware, I want to say by around 3 o'clock that afternoon. Yeah. So, obviously, it's definitely lost productivity, but it's, the better part of a day as opposed to you're down for weeks until you pay the ransom and all that kind of stuff. So that was that instance.
Yeah.
All instances are different, but just to give you an example.
But backups happen.
Oh, as far as when the backups happen, generally there is one every day. And usually what will happen is, let's say, hypothetically, sometimes backups fail. It happens all the time. If 3 consecutive fail in a row, then we have specifically a backup specialist at our office who's monitoring any of these failures. And he will immediately open a ticket and do a deep dive into what's actually going on to
They
prevent.
fail as they're backing up, not you go back and you.
Yeah, no, the backup fails as it's happening. No,
Yeah.
not the ones before. And the ones that we have from you, we hold on to those for a period of 1 year.
Okay.
So, and that sounds like, oh, we need to hold on to our data, some of this data forever. That's all of your data on that server has been backed up at, 7:30 p.m. on Tuesday on this date. That backup that has all that data, now new data is going to happen the next day. Now more data is on there, but that one we're going to hold on to that one for a year. So it's stuff is constantly being added and deleted, essentially, if that makes sense.
Anything else?
Nothing else? Come on, hit me.
Anyone in the audience?
Come on, get me.
Mark?
Anyone on
Any
Zoom? Come on.
questions?
Is there any? You said you were pitching some other products or offerings. Is there anything that Carlisle is not doing that we should be doing in terms of a basic level of security?
So no, this is more of an advanced security tool. I briefly mentioned it to them. It's event monitoring. So right now you already have antivirus, which is your endpoint detection solution with us. It's through a provider called Huntress. Huntress also provides another security solution called SIEM, SIEM, System Information and Event Monitoring. What that does is it essentially looks at all of the logs that happen throughout any given day. So when you're on your computers, you open a window, close a window, download a file, there's a log of that. A single user in an 8-hour workday generates millions of logs by themselves. So what event monitoring is looking at is it's looking for patterns that are outside the norm. I like to say your antivirus is blocking stuff coming in. SIEM is the watchdog inside the house looking for stuff that may have slipped through the cracks. Because that's where this whole layers of security thing, no one system is perfect. Your firewall isn't perfect. Our endpoint detection system isn't perfect. You need all of these working together along with end user training. And all of that together creates as secure environment as possible. There's no such thing as a perfectly secure environment. If it was, you would never hear about hackers in certain instances, but you do. That's where these layers of security help. So the solution, it's not terribly expensive, but again, this is something we're going to need to budget for. So, I floated the idea to him. We'll be in talks about it in future, but this is not a basic secure. Your fence is already set pretty well. This is just another foot layer on top of it, essentially. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
This is what I would bring this to unless there was an immediate recommendation, I would bring it to the finance committee and say, compare it to the other needs, and do you want this?
Okay.
Does Mark have
We
a?
have one.
Mark, did you have a question?
Yeah, I might have missed it, but it sounded like what Ryan or whatever the speaker's name is you have a big server over at the school, so we haven't migrated to the cloud very much for the town computer system. Is that true?
No, no. You guys do not have any servers in the cloud. You have virtual machines on some of these devices, but no, they're not. You still have physical boxes. They are relatively new. They're not brand new, but they're relatively new. And servers are generally good for anywhere from 5 to 7 years. So, with how much you had to spend on them before, there's no immediate need to go to the cloud. Is what I would say. It is definitely something for capital 3 to 5 years out that we can look at, and that's something that we're constantly going to be evaluating. I believe you have a server 2019 is your oldest one. And server 2019 does not go end of life until 2028. So.
Yeah. In the end, it turns out to be less about the servers, but most of the software vendors, if they haven't already migrated to cloud only, they will be. They tend to all do that.
Yes,
They make it expensive to have your own in-house version.
Yes, and the other problem you might run into is sometimes you have legacy systems on some of these on-premise servers that don't play nicely in the cloud. So before we migrate any of those, like I personally, the end of the day, I'm an account manager. I'm not an engineer. I don't personally know what's in all of your servers. So before we make that kind of recommendation, I would want to make sure that there's no older legacy systems like some municipalities have that wouldn't play nicely up in the cloud. Some just don't work at all. There's like some versions of QuickBooks that won't work up in the cloud. There's some older inventory systems that some municipalities have that don't work at all. So that's what we would want to do before we make a recommendation like that. I'm not sure where to look.
Eric?
One quick question.
Just introduce yourself, though,
Yep.
please. Yeah.
Eric Paulus, No Farm Road. I may have missed it, but do we ever keep physical assets of the backup in a particular place, or is it all backed up to the cloud?
All of these are backed up to the cloud.
Does it ever make sense to keep a physical copy?
Not particularly. There are hybrid solutions out there, but in today, the problem with those is they back up to that device and then periodically they're pushed up to the cloud. But sometimes that problem of them pushing up to the cloud fails. The benefit of the solution that we're personally using for you guys is that it's not actually just stored in one place. It's stored across several data centers across the continental United States. It does not branch out from CONUS, which is great. But even if one of those data centers has an issue, there's already copies of it in another data center. So having we call it geo-redundant. Having geo-redundant cloud backups is as our recommendation superior to having just a physical box on site.
Yeah, I wouldn't even think of it on site, I think of it in a different facility, but anyway.
Yep.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, I think that's it, unless anyone else on the board.
Okay, hopefully you never have to see Matt again.
Wow. Good to see you too, Ryan.
Exactly. Thank you, Matt. for coming
Absolutely.
in.
If you're coming here, it's bad, so.
Thank
No,
you,
that's
Ryan,
not
for.
true.
Thanks,
You know what?
Matt.
Next time I'm gonna come over and bring donuts, just to prove you wrong.
Fair enough.
Paying too much for the service.
Yeah. And Ryan, thank you for doing all the work to make this
Any other
happen.
questions? That's actually my cell phone. I don't have a work phone because I can barely monitor one phone as it is.
Great.
Do you have the service desk posted anywhere, like, or circulated? For those of us who aren't in the town hall?
No, but we can do that.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
You're the first to
Have a
ask.
good night, guys.
I'm the one
Gretchen
who
is
locks
usually-
myself out all the time.
Gretchen is our service
Yeah,
desk.
exactly.
Right, I know, that's what I
She's
emailed
the-
Gretchen, and I can't give my password.
I don't want to, what are their names? I don't want to talk to Tony or Jamie. I'll talk to Gretchen.
All right. That's the best security around, too.
That's
Not gonna
right.
give it out without. Travis, what's your password? All right, moving along, it's a little early, but is the MFC here, or I don't want, 3 minutes early, I don't know if that's, is it fine? All right. Jerry, you want to come forward, and Eric, and is it just the three of us?
Is that a quorum? Or you have 7, right?
We have 7, right?
No.
No, we have 5,
Five,
because,
okay.
okay, so you want to call the meeting to order?
I would like to call a meeting of the Municipal Facilities Committee to order at 7:38.
Great. Do you want to do, as a,
Yeah,
Just roll call.
We're inviting, we've encouraged the select board to invite all of your major advisory boards to come and have a discussion. Some of them are very mission focused, like the MFC, so they can review projects with you. But really, you want to assess the role, the advisory role, and the communication with you, and then hear the long-term plans of all of these advisory groups so that you can understand how they fit into your goals and the accomplishment of big reports like the master plan, MVP, et cetera. And you're going to see almost all of your boards this fall as we plan them, and this is one in those lines. So similar questions to the ones that were posed to the Agricultural Commission, with just a little bit of a different mission focus.
great. Well, welcome, Jerry.
Well,
And
good to see
Eric.
you all.
Thanks.
So where to start? Working off of the kind of outline that Gretchen sent, the first thing that I'd like to talk about is the charter, which is is just fine, except in the fourth paragraph, it says, "To accomplish its work, the MFC shall authorize and oversee a designated town employee under the direction of the town administrator to carry out the general ongoing maintenance, repairs of facilities." Since we have a facilities department, the facilities director isn't really under the MFC. It's a town department like any other department. I would expect the MFC to have some input into the hiring of facilities director, but that really is a town function, not an MFC function. Before we had a real facilities director, then that statement made more sense. Something to think about.
Yeah.
So, update on projects. The things that we're currently working on, I can just go through a list and feel free to ask questions as I go along. At the library, we have money set aside to replace the fan call units and expand the mechanical room. That's part of the general library renovation, and will be proceeding in the sequence of the library renovation. So I don't really have much to say about the time frame about that. At Town Hall, we've been working to design replacement for the rooftop unit. That study is underway. We have some estimates on the cost of that are unfortunately much larger than we expected. That project is ongoing. We've made some decisions about how to proceed, and the engineering firm is putting together bid documents. We're also exploring avenues of funding other than town money. There are various grants and things that we have access to that will defray some of the cost and bring it back into more like what we expected when we put together the warrant article. At Town Hall, we're also working on design for the roof, including replacing the membrane, installing insulation, and making the roof envelope more energy efficient. That study is underway. We have various.
Jerry, would you mind if I added, so the order of magnitude?
Oh, you already have stuff up there.
Roof and RTU replacement was projected around 700,000. The RTU replacement alone is $1 million without the roof. So that's mainly because of having to change the structure of the building to accommodate the RTU unit. We are looking for alternate sources of funding for this to defray some of those costs, but that's a big unknown right now. And the design should clarify the costs of both the roof and the RTU to see where we're at with this warrant article.
And we had approved the 1.3, correct?
Yes.
Town? Okay.
Well, the 1.3 was for the total project.
Right.
Elevators. We have an ongoing project replacing or updating 3 elevators. The elevator at the school is essentially done. It's waiting for state inspection to be legally certified. Town Hall will be the next one to start. I don't really have a date for that yet. And the elevator at the library will be done in conjunction with the library renovation. We just finished an upgrade of the HVAC server at the school that is completed. We're working on repairing the retaining wall and stairs at the school. That's an ongoing project. The funding for that is kind of up in the air. There's some state money that may be available to cover some of the costs of that work.
That is confirmed. We have that money now.
Oh boy.
I like to bring good news too occasionally.
Thank you. Let's see, we bought new radios for the facilities people, replacing old out-of-date radios. We have an ongoing project to deal with the pH problems at several town buildings causing pinhole leaks in pipes. That unfortunately got more complicated because of the fact that they're public water supplies. It requires a full engineering study. We can't just go ahead and do it. So that engineering study is underway. The actual cost of doing the work will probably be in the FY27 budget.
I like to add color to the engineer that was hired did not believe that we needed an engineering study to meet DEP standards either. So that was a surprise to the person who does this for a living.
But the DEP thought we needed.
They were adamant that we needed it. And the engineer tried to argue that we didn't, and that this should be much cheaper and it would be less cumbersome to the town, but lost.
So that's kind of a summary of all the stuff we have in the works at the moment. There's several other things on there that we haven't really started yet. Any questions?
Jerry, can we go back to the charter for a second? Because I know, just a super high level question, when this was formed, I was looking at the bottom, 10 years ago.
It was updated in,
Or adopted 10 years ago, right? Like,
yeah.
and at the time, the MFC was really designed to kind of get a handle and fill a function that did not exist in town, and it
Right.
was building maintenance and the upkeep. As you mentioned, we now have a department that accomplishes that. Since you began and the MFC began, I know in the early days, it was very much the nitty-gritty detail of planning projects and executing projects. As a committee, has the MFC been able to kind of take a step back and do more of the planning and prioritization, and have the town resource do more of the day-to-day nitty-gritty, or?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Sometimes we don't have anything to do at all. No, it's very different. Stephen is wonderful. He gets stuff done, and he doesn't really need our oversight. He knows a lot more about maintaining things than we do. He's at our meetings, and he keeps us in the loop on a lot of stuff, and we talk about when something comes up, like the pressure tank at Town Hall decided to start leaking, and we needed some money to cover that, and we worked with him to come up with funding to make that happen. But he does most of the work. We just kind of sit back and watch.
I've been involved in the MFC for 4+ years now, and when I started, it was a lot of, we were as deep in the weeds as you could get, where we were talking about what fitting valve are we gonna put on this to solve these particular, individual issues. And I think this is a real testament to what we had tried to achieve, is really not only move us out of the weeds and think more, to be more of a strategic thinker of what are the capital items that are needed going forward, but also with the shared services that has really come to fruition. We now have a department, essentially, that is with the school combined with the town hall, which makes a lot of sense financially. And Stephen Kearney runs that and has done a magnificent job, I think, of really bringing us along and as a committee. And we just basically are setting the priorities for the capital improvements, is what we're trying to do.
That's the goal.
Is it worth, to your initial comment, is it worth updating this charter to reflect, are we entering kind of the desired state of facility management in this town? And if so, it might be a good time to update this charter to reflect the role of the MFC as it is today, and hopefully will be going forward.
I think that is an appropriate thing to do.
And kind of just clarify some of those key points about what it should be. Because I know it's evolved a lot over the years. And it seems like we're getting to a good place now.
Where would you like that to originate? At the MFC?
Well, I think if the MFC or whomever who involved, that could, and it doesn't have to be a major rewrite, but I just think going over it and making sure the charter reflects the current role and the current structure would be.
I'm happy to work with the select board and with Ryan to come up with some proposed wording that you can approve.
What do you think?
The MFC, that's where it should originate.
Yeah, right.
They know, it's like the group that knows what they are doing and want to be, authorized to do, so.
And I'm just looking over the charter, like it does, it identifies obviously what's in scope, but there's no comment on the relationship with the school, and just putting some of that into the charter and how it's working today, and hopefully how we want it working going forward is reflected.
That's an example of a very big thing that's changed
Yeah.
in the last few years, yeah,
Oh,
where the school fits within the MFC.
The school and the fact that you're not, as you said, you're not the authority overseeing a town employee. There's just, I think it's a good time to do that now that we have a new structure in place.
yeah, I think we should, in the list of buildings, it says include but not limited to, but it doesn't explicitly mention the schools,
Schools,
and
yeah.
it should.
And just don't let this hold up your work. I think it's just a good
No.
thing to get updated in this session, given
Yeah. Agree.
your current members and.
Jerry would know better than I, but one of the things that I talked to Bill Rizzo a lot about was, in the beginning, it was difficult for the MFC to get staff to come to the meetings and to work with staff. Now I think there's 4 or 5 staff members at every meeting trying to help advise and work on projects and think things through. So
Yeah.
at least Sarah, myself, Jim goes to a lot, Stephen.
Stephen is at most meetings.
It's where the money is too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money being spent, so.
But
a lot of
Sarah's
people
there to
wanna
help
know.
advise on, some of the sustainability aspects and the grant. I'm there to coordinate. Jim's there because facilities often overruns with DPW,
Yeah.
so.
And Sarah's doing a lot with the environmental compliance. We're spending a lot.
And
You wanna
and
talk-
turning
the
over
funding.
rocks to find
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
She's big on the funding too.
And 10 years ago, literally there was no formal building maintenance going on. That's why we got into the situation.
It was Bill
Well, and
Rizzo.
It was Bill.
I'll talk about that as when we talk about vision for the future.
Okay, oh, yeah.
Go for it, Jerry.
Well, since our purview is maintaining buildings, we're about to have several new buildings that are probably not going to be in need of a whole lot of maintenance.
Knock on wood.
But there are some things we can do with those new buildings. One of the things, as they come online, is make sure that we understand the things that will need to occur in the future. Like, we put in a new hot water system, but it has a lifetime of 10 years, and in 10 years we should start. So we should look at all the systems in these new buildings and try to put together a plan for what capital things will need to happen as that building ages, as it inevitably will. But so, I mean, we're looking at a situation where we're gonna have a new DPW in a year or 2 or 3, maybe. We're gonna have a new fire station pretty soon. We very nearly have a new police station, and we will have a substantially renovated library. The only building that hasn't received all the loving care of these other buildings is this one, Town Hall, and that's the one that we're spending most of our time working on. A lot of things have to do with the systems. We've done work on the water system. We're working on the HVAC system, which is not only the rooftop unit, but the whole. There have been endless complaints about this building being too hot or too cold, and we're going to try and fix those. There are issues with the exterior envelope windows and doors that need to be replaced, and those will all be addressed in the next year or 2. And one of the things that's on the schedule for the future is the parking lot, which people ask me about all the time.
This parking lot.
This parking lot. Well, there are 3 big paving projects. One is Town Hall parking lot, the other is the library parking lot, which will get addressed when their renovation is completed, and the other is the DPW paving. So those are things that we're looking at for the future.
And that's important because I think a key thing to also think about reflecting in the charter was, as you recall, the issue of deferred maintenance creates a real problem. And what you're describing is proactive maintenance, like identifying these things, putting them in a plan, not deferring them, because we had so many issues that would have to be dealt with when they were an emergency or something failed.
Well, and we've kind of solved the deferred maintenance issue by redoing several of the buildings.
Yeah. But to your point, in 10 years, if you can't just turn a blind eye and.
Yeah, we don't want to wind up in that same spot 10
Right.
years from now.
So I think making sure that your committee remains focused on not deferring maintenance, doing the proper maintenance, and planning out 5-10 years is critically important, so we don't get behind the 8 ball again.
I think to your point, Scott, like, do we have a system in place, or, you know, I don't mean like a IT system, I just mean like a process in place for like the folks who are kind of the primary, I want to say owner, but like the person who's running the building or operating out of the building, like the fire chief, the police chief, to kind of make a list of things that they're noticing as they come up, because
There is a software in place. They can open tickets to request, like if there is a leaky faucet, they can open a ticket and get a request and have the maintenance people come and address that.
Well, like I'm thinking, so for example, I'm going to give the example that is in my head, is like, so I went over to see the renovations at the police station, and one of the things that was like standing out is the exterior paint that's peeling and coming apart. And it's like, so we're doing all this work to the interior, but then Chief Booth didn't really think we were planning to redo the exterior, and it seemed like it was at a point where that would need to be done at some point in the near future. So it's like, he knows that, but it's not something that's critical so that it's like, come fix the faucet. It's something that it's in front of him. But do we have like some, maybe like even a once a year check-in of like, hey, notice anything that is you think needs to be done in the future, or is, you know, you're noticing some wear and tear, something like that? I don't know. That's just what's on my head.
I think that's a good idea. We could query each of the people responsible for buildings to see if they have any, aside from leaking faucets, some larger issue that they would like to address.
Yeah, just so
I'm
that
not
it's
sure
not hidden
whether-
from you. Like, you're thinking of things, but like, you know, I know it in my own house. I'm like, oh, I'll have to do that. But then like,
And the challenge there is, in some cases, they can give good guidance, but I remember when MFC started up, one of the challenges was the director of the library is like, I'm not a building maintenance person. I don't know what
Yeah.
I need. I just know it's cold in here or the water isn't running. And part of our challenge was you need that input, but we were also relying on the different directors to identify to also be building maintenance.
mhm.
And in some cases, depending on the individual, they might not know, or they may be so focused on doing their job that they're not thinking about things.
Which they should be.
Right. And so it's a coordinated effort. And like when we paint an exterior, there probably should be a schedule to say, we're probably gonna have to paint this in
Yeah.
15 years or 10
Well,
years.
and
or-
I don't know whether painting the exterior is part of the scope of the police station renovation. It may
It's not.
be, may not be, I don't know. It's not.
It's not, but it's being considered as an alternate right now. Not, alternate's the wrong word, as a change order.
And Rebecca, you make a really good point about having an ongoing, like, systematic list of saying, okay, these are the things over the next period of time that need to be done. One of the ways that the MFC addressed this to date is, for instance, with the town hall, we commissioned a study so that we had an expert come in,
Yep.
review the entire building and say, here's your priority list and here are the different, steps that you can take. And then we kind of reviewed that and picked from that and said, okay, here's the order we think makes sense.
I think you're gonna see a change with that, with the facilities department. When a department has to defend both its building and its operational equipment, it's gonna defer to its operational equipment, because if you're looking at a list, you're gonna say you're only gonna get so much capital, you're gonna pick the things that you know you need for day to day. Whereas the facilities is going to look at the buildings and the whole picture. A great example is the school. The school has a tremendous amount of deferred maintenance. No one did anything wrong, but they're focused on running the school. So things like Quarry auditorium lighting and other things that are focused on educating people tend to win out versus HVAC, and that's how you want your school to be. So the idea that the MFC and facilities is taking on facilities and can advocate for it outside of the operational process is really good.
Yeah.
And a lot of small towns face this. Your police chief is in charge of the building, and the police force not necessarily trained for one of those.
I just don't want to exclude them. Like just have them be too far removed. Like when I want to, make sure it's an ongoing dialogue. I guess that's my.
Yes.
Yep.
But I just want to make sure they tend to think about the building comfort and look, and not necessarily like the HVAC system and the
Right.
water and, right? So
Well,
it's
the
good to have both
DPW
perspectives.
is a great example of our former DPW director, like, never asked for anything in terms of facility improvements, right? And
You wanted equipment.
he wanted equipment. And, if you don't have an MFC or a facility director, kind of also, both sides need to be looking at it and communicating.
Let's see, what else? What does the town do for us? I would just like to thank the town for providing us with somebody to take minutes of our meetings. That has made an enormous difference in the operation of the committee.
Might be a note for other committees.
Don't tell everyone that.
I don't have anything to add. I think one of the worries that I had, that I think is maybe not as important as we moved on a few years, is there's a lot of institutional knowledge in the heads of MFC folks, especially before Stephen came on board. And I was worried when I first joined that was volatile. It's hard to actually capture that, but we're in the middle of a transition. I think with Stephen having been in his position for a couple of years, a lot of new stuff that's going on. I'm less worried about it, but there's still certain things like just the way the building management systems work, the security systems. We have companies that help put that in, but there's a lot of legacy knowledge that resides in just a few people's minds. I don't know how to. I don't have any magic on how to capture
Well,
it.
we made a stab at that we haven't really followed through on. We have a place set up where people can dump information, documents about the various systems and various buildings, and that is meant to be a repository of all that information. It's set up, but what we have to do is start populating it with all those data files.
Okay, well, thank you, Jerry, for coming. One thing that I would say to kind of lead, we were 10 minutes early for the next one, but would lead into that is that as in the MFC, we did learn how important it is to work with other committees in town. We had in front of the police station, there is a ramp that, we thought would be a simple kind of rebuild. And, it turns out that because it's in the historic district, it falls in the jurisdiction of the historic districts, or the historic committee, and so we, commission. And so we're, worked with them, and I would say they were very helpful in kind of, helping us work through that. And so this is something that we've learned too as a committee, that you gotta, we're all interdependent here in some way.
Well, and the one thing that I've learned is that whenever we make estimates for how much something costs, it always costs more.
It does.
I don't, maybe there has been one instance where something came in under the estimated amount, but that's 1 out of 20 maybe.
And only by this much.
Yeah.
Right?
And you need a study to tell you that.
Well, and studies take time. By the time it's finished,
Time
they
and
cost
money.
more.
That is another change, though, we've seen over that, and it's kind of for your benefit as well. But over the last 5 or so years, we did have a process that was a little different, where we would I was thinking of the DPW, the trailer in front of the DPW, where we just kind of were like, ready, fire, aim, like, you know, rather than
Yeah,
get it.
we tried to do it without really knowing what we were doing and had a very mixed result.
And so now the process, and I think Ryan has really worked with us and worked with the town to really bring on consultants or people to have it lined up and ready so that we don't have those things come out from, you know, that we weren't prepared for.
Well, and a lot of the issues we deal with today are the result of that happening years ago in the way a building was designed or a system was selected or put in. So
Yeah,
do it
there are
right.
Lots of things in town hall that are, you kind of scratch your head and wonder why.
Because of money.
The design of the building, not the
Yeah,
people.
saving money,
Thank
right? You're never saving money by,
So your chair sent some thoughts along, and only one of them hasn't been hit yet, and it was the MFC's perspective on the Highland building. What does it cost each year to simply own and preserve Highland? I don't know if you're ready to talk about that, but.
I held back on that because I didn't think that you know, we,
Well, I mean, where to start? My own personal feeling is that unless we have something useful to do with the Highland building, spending money to keep it heated and keep the power on is a waste of time, resources, of town resources. People have spent a lot of time and energy trying to figure out what to do with that building, and nobody has come up with something. It would have been nice if we had come up with a plan. How long is it 15 years ago? I mean, that building has been sitting there vacant for a really long time. This is my personal feeling. The committee has not taken a position on it.
but there is movement afoot to have this come to a head, to either, you know, have something happen there or, you know, have something happen there ultimately. And I think Jack Trost is leading a portion of that, and I don't know if we'll see where that
Well,
shakes out.
and making the building, the problem is the exterior of the building looks very nice. The interior is a mess. And turning it into a useful, up-to-code space will be very expensive. And, well, without knowing exactly what the use will be, it's hard to know whether the cost of doing that is worth it to the town.
But there's an exercise that one can go through. You know, once you have some prospective uses, you can go through that exercise to make that evaluation. You know, just to say it's too costly, that's prejudging it potentially.
Well, I guess my feeling is we should do a study, decide, and then either do something or not do something, but just to have it kind of linger on for several years more, it seems silly.
All right, anything else? Okay, do you want to?
I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Adjourned.
All right, we're running a minute or two early. We have the Historic Commission coming before us.
You're here to talk about the Highland.
I guess I kept the seat warm for you.
Trying to like, not get up there
The
yet.
third rail.
No, we want to set that up for a full discussion,
Yeah.
not just a.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
All right, well, welcome.
Thank you.
Are you
Thanks
just
for
the
having
two of you?
us. Just the two of us.
Do you want to just introduce yourselves?
Sure. Ben Herder, co-chair of the Historical Commission of Carlisle.
Chrissy O'Shea, co-chair of the Historical Commission.
Super.
We have scheduled this as a joint meeting, so to the extent that we need to open this meeting and we don't
If you
have a
don't have a quorum,
quorum.
you can't
No.
open.
You don't
No.
have to.
Great.
Okay, we can't, or we shouldn't,
You
or?
can't.
Shouldn't,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, we won't. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we have a few things on the agenda here. Where would you like us to begin, I guess? The demolition review bylaw, or?
Why don't we end on that, or let's do that a little bit later, just because
Yeah.
maybe you talk about your overview. I think we have on our agenda overview of the projects, and then we have also an appointment of Annette Lee.
Yep. Would you like us to start there?
Sure, we can start there.
Okay. Well, I think as a commission, we have discussed Annette transitioning from an alternate member back to a full voting member, where she has sat previously. She's been on the Historical Commission for a number of years, is also a district resident. And so she has a lot of knowledge about the commission itself, but also, history of the district. And we have all been supportive of her appointment as a full-time member. I'm not sure that we fully voted it is that?
We discussed the recommendation and discussed bringing it to the select board.
Yeah, so we support it as chairs. Don't know if we need to vote on that as a commission,
I don't
or
know
what the
our
process
policy on
is
that.
there.
We
It's
have
a
to- I
process
think you-
question.
I think
I think you-
Christine has
has-
technically said,
Well, it's not so much her. Do we have a process in place, Ryan, that the policy that boards have to elect or vote on a candidate prior to the?
It's not a hard and fast rule. It's, you want to make sure that you're not putting someone on a committee that they don't support. It's not, they don't have to formally, but you usually like them to.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Okay. I think that a little of the confusion was because the final vote for the appointment is to the select board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were under the impression that the recommendation should come from our committee, but with the
Yes.
final vote to the select board.
Right. Normally, you take a vote to recommend.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's not.
she's
We're-
already on as an alternate.
That's right.
She's an
She's
alternate
currently an
member.
alternate.
We're ultimately the appointing authority, so we can appoint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just typically want to make sure that, as Ryan said, they've been vetted by the committee that they're being appointed to.
Sure. I
It
don't think
sounds
we,
like that's the case
I
here.
don't think we had any representation here at your last meeting when it was discussed, and so there was,
Right.
Yeah.
I think, some confusion there. So hopefully you could take this as our support
Yeah.
of her appointment.
The one thing I wanted to pass along, so our select board is down 2 people tonight, as you can see, and our
Yeah.
chair, Christine Stevens, is not here. She had sent me an email, and I'm gonna read it because I think it's close enough to how she would say it in the meeting, and I just think she said, "I strongly support preserving Carlisle's historic character, but I also believe the commission should see itself as a constructive partner in helping worthwhile projects find a path forward. With Ferns in particular, this is an important project for the town center, as voiced by many townspeople. I would like to see the Historical Commission engage early and collaboratively with the applicants, clearly identifying any concerns, suggesting acceptable alternatives, and working toward a solution that both protects the historic district and allows the project to succeed." That's a little off tangent on her view on that, but it's something, and it leads into. And she said, "I do not think it would be appropriate to condition an appointment on how Annette would vote on a particular application. I do, however, request clarification on whether she shares the select board's expectation of timely, predictable, and solution-oriented review processes." So that was her way of saying, I think, that she's just interested in making sure that we have a goal as a select board this year of, and I've said this at the last meeting as well, but for me personally, the biggest issue that people come up to me in town and ask me about right now is Ferns. Everyone's saying, "What are you doing with, why, we have no public spaces, we have we're really lacking this. What are you doing about it?" And so and it is a select board goal for the year, is we agreed as a goal to support Ferns. Now, we're figuring out what level of support that means, but it certainly means we are using our time and the resources we have available to support it. So to that end, we like the committees that we appoint to try to support the goals that the select board is putting forward. So I think that's where that leads, is that
Sure.
she would hope that, that's what she's saying, that they would support, you know, and I don't, you know, she just said, before we act on her appointment, I'd like to understand her perspective on this and her willingness to help foster a cooperative relationship between the Historical Commission and the Ferns project team. I see these both as important considerations in determining whether to support the appointment. I don't know if I mean, I've now voiced her concerns, but I'm comfortable supporting this candidate, unless there's others tonight who feel differently on it.
Let me ask this question. If we delayed an appointment to our next meeting, is there anything upcoming on your end that requires a vote, or that this may impair your ability to operate, or are you okay waiting? Because I think given Christine's concerns, and she's chair, it would be good to have, if there's not any adverse effect to waiting 2 more weeks, it would probably be good to have this discussion. That's,
However,
because you have four
Yeah.
or 5 members in place, right? Voting members.
We have 4 voting members
Yeah.
at the moment. We have 1 vacancy. Annette is our alternate right now, and so for the past 2 meetings, we have deputized her as a full voting member.
Can they do, is that,
yeah, you can do that.
okay.
Yeah.
So it's not an
Do that in the
associate?
zoning board of appeals.
Okay.
That's fine.
Because some committees have, associate members that aren't voting members.
Yeah, but usually you can then, if you're doing a particular project and you say, oh, we don't have a quorum, or we're gonna bring this person on, but then at least with the zoning board of appeals, we always made a point of saying, if that person is brought on to be a voting member, they stay with that as the voting member.
For that
going-
application.
For the application.
Yeah, yeah.
Were there any other candidates for that stepped forward or submitted an application for the Historic Commission?
We had 2 residents step forward, but neither submitted an application in the end. So they've attended meetings, spoken to us as chairs, but to date, no one has submitted another application.
Well, I think, you know, if, so that's a question to you. Can you wait 2 weeks? Or is this critical that you have? Is there something coming up that you need to
So-
make her a full member?
Is the 2 weeks just so that Christine's here for the discussion, or is it because you want them to go back and have the vote to formally recommend?
It would be both,
I
probably.
think both, and also ask the question, pose the question to the applicant, to say, if the select board, if Christine wants an answer to that question, I think we should ask the applicant what their view on Ferns is.
We can, well, this might help the conversation tonight, or not, I don't know.
Okay.
But we had asked the new owners of Ferns to come before the commission, when was this?
November
Back in November.
of
Just
2025.
of 2025, right after they expressed their interest in the purchase, just to have a dialogue about what they were intending to do with Ferns. And we were very excited to hear from them that they had plans for the building, including, you know, preservation of the exterior, some work on the patio, as well as the full kind of gut renovation of the interior. So I'd say it was a great conversation, and that was part of that conversation as well. And we just shared with them that we're here as a resource, and we'd love to be collaborative through this process. And so, anyways, we've had that initial conversation with the new owners of Ferns, and, you know, if and when they submit an application, we will have that conversation with them as well. So, anyways, if you'd still like to wait until next meeting, we can do that. And
What do you think? I mean, do you have an opinion on that?
I also just want to say that Annette is a longtime resident of
Oh, yeah.
Carlisle, and her service record is equally lengthy.
Yep.
She fully appreciates, I would say, and understands what the town processes are. I won't speak for her, obviously, but I think, you know, that her track record should hold some weight in the fact that she's stepping up yet again to be part of another commission and donating her time and her hours to do that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what do you think? I didn't have any concerns about making the appointment tonight. I'm just reacting to the questions from Christine.
Given what I've heard and that she's been in town and she's certainly been a part of this committee for so many years, and if you're saying that, you know, she's generally, you know, has been a good committee member, is not like,
Yeah.
you know, I think we're eager to have volunteers in Carlisle, especially highly qualified volunteers.
Yeah, she's the former chair of the commission for a
Right.
long time as well,
Right.
so.
But, so, I don't know, do you have any thoughts? Or do you wanna wait? I mean, if there's no harm in waiting, then we can wait another and get the, just say that we need an extra 2 weeks for the vote of your committee.
Do you have a meeting
I'm
planned
just gonna
between
look,
now and
I was just
then?
gonna look at my calendar actually, cause I'm not sure what how the dates are gonna play out.
Yeah,
I know
the
you have
third
some
Wednesday
upcoming,
of
No,
September.
we're not, we wouldn't have a meeting before the next 2 weeks anyway. Our next meeting is the 16th, right?
So then we're looking at end of
Of
September and
September.
then you're leading
16th,
into-
yep.
And then we're,
But we could still have, the other thing is Christine could reach out directly to the applicant and ask the applicant, you know, questions if you have, go for it.
Yeah, I don't.
So if I could just ask the question, it sounded like from the email we heard, she doesn't want to put a condition on the nomination or appointment of Annette to the commission.
Right.
However, it seems like that is what's happening here.
Yep. I think you're right, actually, and I think, that, you know, I came into this not seeing an issue with it, but,
Yeah.
so.
I mean, to me, to your point, for an experienced, involved volunteer who's previously served on the committee, chaired the committee, when you have no other candidates who step forward,
Right.
it would be highly unusual to not make that appointment unless there was something,
Right.
which is not the case here. So, you know, given there aren't any other applicants, and if we don't want to put a condition of this one issue on this applicant,
Right.
then I think we just go ahead and make the appointment.
Great. Can I get a motion, please?
I will, hold on, let me bring that up again.
I couldn't find it, so I'll wait for you.
Sorry, what was her name again? Is it
Annette
Mary Jo?
Lee.
Okay. I move that the select board appoint Annette Lee to the Historic Commission for a term ending June 2029?
Yep.
2029, correct? Okay.
I second.
Great. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you for
Yeah.
for your time with that.
Sure.
Okay, so can you just give us a quick overview of the projects that you're working on, or did we want to talk about, you know, the other thing would be your charter, or, you know, the purpose and being of what you're doing, and then we'll get into the demolition bylaw.
Okay. Yep.
Delay,
Demolition review. bylaw.
review,
Demolition
sorry.
review,
That was
not delay.
old, that was old.
Yep.
Old nomenclature.
terminology, Yep,
Yep.
sorry.
do we wanna just touch on the charter first, since it was the first question in the email?
Sure, sure.
So the question was posed to the Historical Commission by the Select Board about whether or not the current charter is sufficient. In a very timely fashion, the commission actually recently reviewed in February of '26 our charter and made a very few minor updates, which were vetted through town council and approved by them, mostly just to modernize some of the language. You know, I think we described in that charter the Historical Commission's two roles as both the Historic District Commission, which sort of oversees the district in the center of town, and then as a sort of advisory, in an advisory role and capacity for the town. During the 1976 town meeting, the citizens voted to enlarge the role of the original Historic Districts Commission to that of a full historical commission. So that's sort of the history on that, and that really just gives the ability to have a dialogue and a conversation and help the town with projects that lie outside of the district. So
Just a general question. So, and I know there, like some committees, we write and approve a charter and carve it out and define it. How does the historical commission work? Do we approve the charter? Or did we approve the update, or is that a town meeting thing? Because I know some committees and commissions, and I don't know, committee versus commission, I'm not clear on all the ins and outs of that.
So the statutory authority of the Historical Commission comes from the adoption of the MGL that governs the Historical Commission. The role that Chrissy was just talking about is governed by you in town meeting. This recommendation authority, because there is no statutory authority there. There is no decision making, but there is the weight of the Historical Commission. So I don't know if I fully answered because it's not.
Well, you
fully
said you
clear.
updated your charter. Do we need to approve that update as a select board? Or do they have the authority to
Or
update
did
their
the
charter?
town meeting approve?
Or does the town meeting, like, what's the process there?
I think I know the answer, but I'm gonna get you the real
Okay.
answer.
we did ask that question.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it sounds
and-
like you went, I'm just curious,
Yeah.
because all these different committees, and there's a lot of differences in terms of how they're approved, all that stuff. So I
Yeah,
just want
and
to
the
make sure that
tiers.
everything's
Yeah.
buttoned up.
My suspicion is that it's a town meeting driven and that the changes were in alignment with that vote, but
Okay,
I would want to confirm that.
gotcha, okay, good.
So not you.
Yep.
So
Okay.
I think we feel like it's
You're
in a good
shape.
I think we're in
position.
good shape, yeah.
Excellent.
But
Is there any projects, that was the other thing, projects outstanding that are notable that you want to tell us about?
just
Well,
one.
The biggest project is the demolition review bylaw, which
Okay.
we can share a little bit more on.
Yep. Why don't
If
you do
wanna
that?
do that now?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. We have a little slideshow, if I could join the Zoom here.
And I got your mailing, so that word is getting out.
Oh, good.
Good.
Yeah, we've
Me
been
too.
doing a fair amount of outreach, including that.
You were running a survey last year. Do you
Yeah.
do you continue to collect responses or update, or are you kind of restarting that through these community discussions?
That was really
Kind of
sort of to
latter.
solicit feedback
Yep.
specifically about the parameters of the bylaw. This next phase is really the socialization of this for the town to be able to ask questions, truly understand the depth and ins and outs of the bylaw. So sort of running like some outreach there.
Recording in progress.
Oops, sorry.
Certainly, sorry, just so it doesn't do that horrible echo. You know, certainly we're taking into account people's thoughts on the bylaw, but for the most part, this poll specific was like a set of very specific questions that we have closed at this point.
And you've made, I think you've done a very good job, in my opinion, of seeking input from where you started, getting public input. The draft bylaw has changed, I think, pretty substantially
Yeah.
in many ways to try and, respond to resident concerns or in your own changes in how you think might be applied.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That has been the intent of the nearly 3-year-long process now that we're working on this, but I think that's, it takes a while to distill down what the town needs. And that's really the end goal.
And so this is just a brief slideshow that we've been sharing with other boards and commissions. Many of who we've met with previously, and so we're trying to get back before everybody before town meeting, because our plan is to present at town meeting this fall. And so just to reiterate, the demolition review bylaw is a planning and preservation tool for the town of Carlisle to promote thoughtful change in town, not preventing change altogether. There we go. So this is where we are right now. This is the district that you're seeing, and all of the 52 properties within that district are protected and protected by the Historic Districts Commission. But as you can also see, there are nearly 700 buildings in town over 50 years old that have no sort of protections and have no review process. And so what you were kind of hinting at a moment ago there, Travis, these are some of the changes that have been made through this process. So we started with the demolition review period of 18 months, which was in alignment with a number of towns in this area and a number of towns similar to Carlisle. Some towns were even pushing out to 21 months, 24 months. And through the discussions that we've had at Old Home Day and other events, we came back to 12 months as being an appropriate period, which is still in alignment with other towns. We've changed the 50-year rolling clock, which was what we heard from Mass Historical as the recommended threshold for the age of homes. So it's 2026 now, which would mean 1976 and older. That's the threshold that would trigger the conversation about whether it was historically significant or not. Again, through conversation, we have changed that to a fixed date of pre-1970, and we have another slide to explain that. One of the things that we've found to be very helpful through the process is this addition of the predetermination of historical significance. So before any homeowner applies for a demolition permit, they can get a predetermination of historical significance from the Historical Commission, which is good for 5 years. And so we find that this is really giving agency to homeowners so they can do better planning for their property. Some updates to the intents and purposes section, really to make it tailored to the town of Carlisle and to clarify the process. And then lastly, the MVP Core Committee, we met with them last in January, I think, of this year, January, February of this year, and they shared some suggested revisions to the bylaw. We've incorporated some of those as well. A lot of that had to do with deconstruction, sort of selective demolition.
Just for those who are interested, why the focus on pre-1970. So as Ben mentioned a moment ago, the nationally and state recognized threshold for determining historical preservation or historical significance is 50 years. It's just the benchmark that's used by the federal government, by the state government. So if we sort of apply that standard of historic preservation to the town of Carlisle, there's a really interesting chart that begins to develop whereby we see this very rapid growth period that happened in the 1960s. And so it's a move from the sort of colonial, rural, agricultural, purpose-built buildings, farmhouses, outbuildings to planned suburban development. So that pre-1970 date captures all of that growth in Carlisle, but is now a fixed date. So anything built pre-1970 would be applicable under this bylaw, but it is not a rolling clock any longer because the feedback that we got from town boards and committees and residents felt that that wasn't the most appropriate for Carlisle.
Yep.
And the next slide is just.
Is there a reason you didn't go pre-1960s and say, we're gonna protect 15% of, I guess, what's that decade of the 60s? I guess in my naive head, I don't think of that as like historic structures when I think of the Carlisle character.
Sure.
And by including it, you include, 1 out of 5 homes.
Yeah.
Those be deck houses, though?
Is that the deck house? Yeah.
It's the mid-century build, so it's
Some
core
of them,
houses,
yeah.
some of the early deck houses. Carlisle, interestingly, has the largest concentration of deck houses in the world. That feels fairly significant from a preservation lens. That doesn't necessarily mean that it guarantees those houses are historically significant, but simply there should be a space to at least look at them and evaluate them. And the reason that we used the historic preservation standard of 50 years, and that sort of gave us the parameter on that graph to start with, and that's why it's not before the 1960s, because we felt that given that that's a nationally recognized standard, that was the appropriate place to set the parameter. This is just sort of hopefully a helpful slide to dispel some of the myths that were being discussed in town. Just to make it very clear that these are not the intentions of the bylaw, and the bylaw does not do, this is basically our slide for clarity, and that the bylaw does not seek to do any of the listed actions. And that it's really, again, as we've been saying, it is a process for the town to explore thoughtful change to its cultural future. And it's one part of the planning toolkit, which I think, especially given the potential for some other state mandates, may be very helpful for the town moving forward. And we touched on this a couple of minutes ago, but this is sort of our history and future of outreach in our lead up and approach to town meeting.
Yeah, we'll be starting office hours starting in September.
Yeah.
Here at Town Hall. We've been to one farmer's market already at the beginning of the month. We're hoping to attend another one end of September, and then
we'll be at Kimball's on Sunday if anybody wants to come by and visit
Kimball's
us.
as well.
Yeah. So we're really trying to just touch on as many residents as we can to make sure that we are giving them space to ask their questions and hopefully helping them to understand what the intent of the bylaw is. So.
From your standpoint, the bylaw, the draft revision 1.5, my understanding it's been reviewed by legal from your committee standpoint. One of the things we want to make sure going into fall town meeting is that things are done and have had the appropriate review and socialization. So socialization is happening. The bylaw itself, where does that stand in terms of legal review, making sure what's in there is correct, admissible, all those things?
As far as we know from town council, everything is correct and admissible.
Yep.
I would say we are still marking this as draft because we are going through it with in the minutia of are all the periods in the correct place, so changes at this point are kind of on that level. The overall intent or the spirit of the bylaw is, to our mind, this is a deliverable.
And in terms of internally, like the building commissioner, do they support this? Have they been part of this process? Because they play a key role, obviously, in the process.
So
Yeah.
we've reached out to John. We were in touch with John before he left Carlisle for Lincoln, and now that he's returned, which is great. We've reached out to him again. We just received some comments back this morning. So we'll be following up with him to,
And he also serves what, Lincoln?
to
He
discuss.
does, yeah.
And they have a demo bylaw.
Yeah.
He has a lot of mid-century modern housing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what if you could characterize the feedback, positive and negative, that you've gotten in your conversations? What are the kind of key things? I mean, obviously, the town supports generally preservation of Carlisle character and
Yeah.
historic structures, but what are people most wary of? What are people most enthusiastic about? That anecdotally from talking to folks.
Yeah, I mean, I think the slide, the does not
Yeah.
slide is sort of a response to some of the pushback that we are getting. And I think, again, a lot of that is just a lack of understanding. When you introduce something that's legal like this, it's hard to digest for all of us. So I think trying to, again, just push out some information about what it's truly doing. I think the support, actually, it was interesting, the last time that we thought about bringing this to town meeting and then we sort of held back, we got a lot of feedback after that saying, you know, we were looking forward to supporting this at town meeting. And I think that again, as outlined in the master plan, there's a lot of support for protecting the cultural and Carlisle character. I think it's unique and specific. It's why people like to live here, and the intent here is just, again, a tool to help continue that.
I think that was well captured, yeah.
I don't have a question, but I really liked the addition of the predetermination. I thought that was critical. As somebody who's like involved in real estate a bit, the ability to be able to, you know, figure out if you can sell your home without restriction, right, to somebody, I think is critical. It would be, you know, front of my mind as a representing broker. So, anyways, I thought that was a really good ad.
Great,
Thanks.
thanks.
Travis, I know we're not deliberating on this tonight or taking a position. I know also, I mean, I have comments and questions.
I do too.
But I also know we're,
running on time.
so we can kind of save that for either the sessions or a deliberation.
Yeah, I was going to, this was my first opportunity to sit down and really read it because you'd sent it, and so I went through it, and I've got a lot of individual questions which I'll send over to you.
That'd be great.
You know, and I know we didn't allocate enough time for this discussion at this point, but.
Can I ask one major question of, like, you put up the chart, 700 households, they're eligible for predetermination. If this were to pass and you say had 5% of those say we want predetermination, and you had 35 requests come in, can the committee handle that workload? Because this has the potential to create a lot of additional. You've provided some metrics in the past of how many structures would meet this criteria looking backwards, but passing this may generate a lot of interest in terms of getting that predetermination.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sure you've discussed this as a commission and how you would handle this, but that would be a concern, is just making sure the workload is something that you could take on and do the proper job with.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, we don't have any concerns about the workload. I mean, if, as you say, 35 applications come in all at once, you know, we'll spread them out as we need to, but we'll be as timely in responding to these as we can be as a commission of 5.
That's a good point, Scott. I don't know that in the draft, I didn't read it super closely, but
They
I
can
don't-
delegate it to
It's
one
up to one
person,
person.
which
But a failure, it says that like, there shall be a response by the commission within 30 days, but to the extent that you're not able to accommodate that, there's no, like, a failure to respond is an approval, or is, you know, like.
yeah. Hold on, I just want to double check, because that timeline applies only once a demolition permit has been applied for. I'm just double checking myself on our timeline for the it's 45 calendar days.
45, okay.
Yeah.
For a predetermination.
For a predetermination.
Sorry, I got the wrong one.
Yeah.
And is it like, as someone who's not familiar with these bylaws and the process, is it kind of like you know it when you know it. Like a house comes along. I mean, how much you drive by, you look at it, you look up some records. How much research has to go into each of these requests? I have no sense of the scope of work required to make a determination of significance or preferential. What's the term? Preservability.
Preferably preserved.
Yeah, like is this like a? I'm sure you're not in there like measuring every beam and all those things, but what typically
It's
how
on
long
the
is it?
Exterior.
Is it primarily exterior?
It's only
It's
exterior.
only exterior.
Yeah.
And I would assume a majority of houses you can pretty much make a fairly quick determination on.
So the historical significance checklist that we sent
Yeah.
in the packet is an
Yep.
objective list of criteria
Yep.
that the house has to, the structure would need to meet in order to be determined historically significant. There's
Right.
also other resources available, national, state resources. And we have a very excellent record keeper in the Historical Society here that has a lot of information about the town's history and the relationship of those buildings as well. So I think there are a lot of resources available if we need to go down a very specific rabbit hole, but it's really a case-by-case basis because of the nature of it's an individual structure in each application.
That was kind of one of my big questions to you, is you have this checklist, which I thought was really thoughtful checklist, and you can kind of go through, but why didn't that get included in the bylaw? Because the bylaw currently just is kind of whatever you decide, but then you say, well, we've got this checklist, we use this, but why didn't that get incorporated into that? So that future boards know what the intent of the bylaw was.
I think the intention is to have it be like an appendix, but we didn't want to bog down the actual bylaw. It's already 8 pages long. So to add that into the actual body of the text makes it a very lengthy and intimidating document. But if it's a legal appendix to the document, then that gives people the ability to go and consult that for more information.
Similarly, we have the flow chart diagram.
Right, which is
That's
helpful
not
to
in the bylaw itself, but it's there as a supporting document to the bylaw. All of the same metrics that are in the bylaw are represented graphically in the flow chart.
Right, which is great, and that's visually helpful to understand, but it's different when you have a listing of your criteria that aren't in the bylaw, and it's not referenced as an appendix, or at least maybe I missed it, but you know, it's just, it's saying, oh, well, we've decided these are the criteria, but next year we're gonna decide that there are 10 other criteria that aren't there, and so I just wondered if that was considered. Because it does give the Historic Commission incredible latitude here as to determining, you know, what they want to determine.
2 points on that. The list is, again, a nationally set list of criteria that they use at the national level to also, it's like the criteria for historic preservation as outlined by the Ministry of Interiors through the Parks Department, which is where that criteria comes from. So it's a reference to another governing sort of entity, and that's where that list is directly derived from. I will also just reiterate that this is a temporary bylaw. At the end of, you know, if every measure and exercise is applied, at the end of 12 months, the property owner still can proceed with the demolition. It is very simply a delay for a conversation, and I think that that sort of binds the concern about the oversight of the commission because there is that temporal nature to the bylaw.
Good response.
And I need to do more homework on this because, again, when you read it, as someone who's not familiar with these, there's a lot of things like that that pop into your head of like, well, what about this and what about that? And at the same time, when I look at the surrounding towns of Concord, Bedford, Lincoln, Sudbury, Acton, Westford, they all have demo bylaws, and they all have very similar language. In fact, like the Concord one is very similar in a lot of ways to what we see. So a lot of the language that I find concerning has been applied and is being used in other towns. And so that's just part of the education of how, there's no exact way to say this is significance equals X plus Y plus Z. It's ultimately a subjective judgment based on some criteria, but it's hard, what does significant mean? Well, at the end of the day, that's a judgment. And I think that's what people need to be comfortable with.
Well, I think it's opening it up to the town. It's not just the commission. It's to have public meetings so that
Right.
input can be brought from others in the community as well. So,
Great.
yeah.
We have gone way beyond our allocated time, but I
Okay.
think is important. And
Yeah.
what we'd like, I think, I'll talk to Christine about it, but we'd have you back
Yeah.
before, because you're gonna ostensibly need support, or, you probably will have to take a position on this warrant article as well, so.
Yeah.
And
And-
your dates for the public outreach they go to the end of September, if I recall?
They go.
Into
to-
October.
They go
Into
to
October.
November,
November, okay.
yeah.
So probably like end of September, early October timeframe would be good to have.
Have
a
another discussion,
Yeah.
a deliberation. Okay.
The only thing I will say is, Ryan, will you verify the date for the closing of the bylaw language, should any adjustments need to happen, is the end of September?
Correct.
So it would be good
Okay.
to maybe have a discussion,
Yep.
not to put that on your plate, and we're happy to respond through email or, whatever way, if you'd like to come to office hours, if you wanna come get an ice cream cone at Kimball's on Sunday night.
Yep.
Can I ask I don't mean it to be a loaded question, but would you be willing to change the bylaw at all, or is it set?
I mean, I think at this point it would have to be like a major
Yeah.
concern.
Because if you're not willing to change it, then it doesn't matter.
I see what you mean,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, again, it would have to, I would rather hear what the feedback and questions are earlier and give us the ability, again, this is not for the historical commission, this is a tool
Yeah.
for the town.
Yep.
So if the town feels that there's a better avenue, I think we need to have that discussion earlier as opposed to later.
I understand. I'm looking at it logistically, and it was
Yeah.
very loaded, but I was just,
Yeah.
for planning purposes, it's helpful to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
And quite frankly, most of it is in line with what, you differ in some of the parameters and timeframes, but most of it's in line with surrounding towns. I think there's a couple of unique things in your bylaw, the predetermination, and then you had added some language about environmental sustainability, so just understanding that content and the implications of that, to me, were the two things that you don't necessarily see in the earlier bylaws that are implemented. But
Yeah.
I think as a select board, we should probably direct any questions directly to the committee, or I don't know if we should consolidate questions through Gretchen or somebody, but probably just email any questions directly to
Okay.
Ben and Chrissy.
Most
Yeah.
helpful, yeah.
Yeah.
And then go to the
The office hours.
outreach, yeah.
Good. Thank you both.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
For your time. All the good work.
Oh, thanks. Is there any reason for me to stay
I
for
can-
CPC capacity?
I can present it.
Okay.
And there's no decisions being made, so.
Yeah, okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, I apologize as the acting chair here for running so late beyond our schedule, but I thought that was an important discussion to have. So the next item on our agenda is actually the CPC,
So I would skip that and combine it with the
The
9
sem-
o'clock.
the closing the warrant. What about the cemetery? Do we have any, I see Gordon's on, and is that a specific, does he need?
I would go to
presenting?
that one now.
You would? Okay. It's the 8:45, all right.
Right back on.
No,
Kind of
sort of,
schedule.
not really, but the Cemetery National Register proposal, preliminary eligibility and nomination process. Do you want to kick this off?
I do. A donor has offered to fund a consultant to prepare the application to ask that Green Cemetery be included on the National Register of Historic Places. When made aware of this, Christine completed research into the application process, and there are preliminary eligibility determinations provided by the Massachusetts Historical Commission, and she'd like to discuss with the board the following. So acknowledging the proposal And talking about the gift, asking the cemetery committee and historical commission to jointly contact MHC and assemble documentation, hold off engaging consultants until you understand Mass Historical's determination, and then if it does appear eligible, formally vote to understand what that is and to do it. So basically what Christine's saying is there's a gift, but there is a preliminary step that could be taken in order to see if the MHC would accept it, which would indicate that it would be accepted nationally, and then spend the money on consulting. So not take the gift until that was known. But that is what she was supposed to present to the board.
Is this part of like the whole trust fund thing?
No.
Or is this?
So this is a private donor saying that because this was brought up as a CPC application last year to do this process,
Yep.
and it wasn't eligible, the donor is now saying that they'll pay for it. This initial step, up to 10,000.
In the Massachusetts Historical Movement. So, based on these steps, we can acknowledge the proposed gift. I hereby acknowledge it, right? Like,
We're grateful. I don't know. How do we do that?
do we need a motion to acknowledge it, or just we acknowledge it?
Just know that it's there.
Okay.
I think the primary thing is, do you want the cemetery committee and the historical commission to look into it
Yeah.
first, or do you want to just accept the gift and go forward with the National Registry?
Well, if we were to accept the gift and we couldn't, for whatever reason, couldn't proceed with,
Well, we're just acknowledging, right? We're not accepting the gift?
Yeah.
Yeah.
right. But you're saying we could accept the gift tonight?
Oh, you could go all the way if you want.
We're running the show. Come on.
Just so I understand the process, though, I don't know what this means, other than we are getting this gift, but I don't know the implications of being, and that's what they're gonna study with
Yeah.
this gift?
So I think the real question is, do you want your committees to engage in this with some staff support to look into it? Are you not interested at all, or do you just want to do it blindly? It's kind of the three options.
I like number one, to have the committees investigate and come back to us and give us their sense on whether or not they think that this is appropriate for Carlisle.
Gordon's out there. So what, the last thing, if we appear eligible, return to the select board with that information, a proposed scope of work. Is that in a time frame where we wouldn't lose the gift? Like, I don't want to spend months or something on some effort. If this is a fairly quick due diligence, make sure this looks like a viable path, and then we accept the gift, great. If we think that's going to take too long and the gift may go away, that would be the only thing that colored my preference on that. Gordon, I think you're muted. I'm just,
You're still muted.
Yeah, he's working on it.
Sorry about that. I'm stepping in for Susan, who's unavailable this evening. So I am not as close to it as she is, but what this sounds like is she's being asked, or the committee's being asked to test the viability or the success of the application. And I think it's sort of a chicken and egg. You won't know until you apply. So I don't know exactly how to get around that, but I think I understand the process. And I think the chances are probably pretty good that we have historic attributes to the cemetery that might make a good candidate for the National Register.
I think my questions are more along the lines of like, if we were to have it added to the Historic Register, are there obligations that come along with that in terms of any additional or expansive markings or maintenance or restrictions, right, about who could be buried there? I mean, that's the kind of thing that I think I would really be interested in hearing back. Not necessarily do we think it would be successful or not, but what does it mean to us?
Exactly, I agree.
Sure, it's good point.
I second your opinion on that. When I first heard this, it was the first thing I just said, what does this all mean? What are the restrictions? What, because if it'd be beneficial, great, let's find out why, and if there are restrictions or things, let's find out. Just for point of reference, though, Dean had sent me some information, said, my suggested direction was that the Historic Commission and the cemetery work jointly and to advance this through the Mass Historic Commission, and if all looks feasible, come back to the select board. That was what she had said. I don't know if that's I mean, I think it's a cemetery.
Yeah.
I guess.
So I'm learning with you, but I think you have to apply to MHC first anyways. So that's.
MHC, then the national, and the national is where you need the money to do something, like the $10,000 presumably,
Yes. So there's a predetermination route here.
and that's free, quote unquote?
Well, I think that's what the first thing we would investigate. And we haven't spent time on this because it just came out of
Yeah.
nowhere, and we want to make sure you want us to look into it, which is why we don't have all the information necessary. Because if you said we don't want to do this at all, we shouldn't have spent a lot of staff time on it. But if you want us to dig into it, we can.
What do you think, Gordon? I mean, do you have any perspective on Green Cemetery if it were to be a National Register of Historic Place? I mean, you spent a lot of time working on the cemetery. Do you have any idea what that would offer?
Well, to one point, I think it's a good candidate, and what it would get us is applicability to loans or to funds to do repairs, maintenance, that sort of thing. It also raises the image of the cemetery. It has a lot of historic value, and that would be known. It also can potentially prevent any kind of eminent domain by federal agencies for putting a highway through it, for example. On the other end, I hadn't thought, this really, Susan was running with this, but I hadn't thought on the other side, do you need to put up a plaque saying this is, a National Register of Historic Places
You do.
place, and you can do anything else? So I think we could do a little more research on it.
I mean, I'd like to I think it would be good to get a recommendation if this is something that, because your committee would probably have to do the first step of working with the MHC. And if you deem it's not worth the effort to do that, then it probably informs the overall decision. But if you guys look at it and say, no, this is worth doing, and this first step is achievable, then I think that's worth doing before we.
Someone worked with MHC 10 years ago or more. And there's a document we have which has a very nice description of the cemetery. I don't know what happened in terms of that effort, but this would be part of our capital plan, a 5-year start, to say what do we need to fix, what are the funds we can bring to it, CPC, any kind of matching funding or outright funding from the National Register folks, obviously the trust fund. What various sources can we bring to do the maintenance and ongoing maintenance of Green Cemetery? So it's something that we thought was important, and we still like to pursue it. I personally haven't fleshed out any of these details.
And if we were to accept the gift and not proceed with that gets that's not great.
Yeah, I think we could add in the acceptance that anything that's unused is returned.
Okay.
And like most things, we would spend in gates, so make sure that we're using it wisely.
Yeah. And we want to make sure this isn't a $100,000 proposition.
Correct. Yeah. But the main argument for it becoming a National Historic Place is the fact that it has Minutemen in it, which is pretty significant.
Sure. Well,
We driving up our tourism?
well, and from what little I know which is very little, on National Historic, if you're designated that, you can then raise funds that people can donate to and get a tax deduction. So it may be an incentive. So if you wanted to fix the chapel there, and this was all part of that it's an opportunity to have donors come, if they so desired, to donate to that and have a tax deduction from that.
So
I guess I'd really just want to confirm about restrictions on who gets buried there going forward. Like, if, even like fees, do they set fees for
Mhm.
burials or something? Like that takes it out of our control?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Does do the national feds approve who gets buried there?
I would highly doubt that.
I don't think so.
No, but the question is, what are the restrictive things that would
Yeah.
come with this? And we'd
Yeah.
like to know them, and you would too, I'm sure, so.
Absolutely.
So then, do we want to ask the cemetery committee to look into this and determine if this is something that they're willing to pursue and potentially take the next step to contact basically bullet point 2?
Yes.
I think
Okay,
so,
yeah.
sure.
Gordon, I think for our future work on this, we'd want to know the potential cost, overall cost of this application, any restrictions that it provides, and how long it's going to take at a minimum.
And is your committee able to assemble the documentation necessary for the MHC? I have no idea what that might be.
That's what I meant about the time.
Yeah.
1,000 pages, is it 2? Do we already have it?
Right.
Be good to know.
And then whomever is offering the gift, I think just letting them know that we want to take these preliminary steps to ensure that if we do accept the gift, that we're pursuing the goal of the gift.
All that sounds reasonable.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
Try not to do things without talking to you about it first.
Thank you.
And it is nice to work in a town where someone would be willing to donate that much money to preserve history.
Absolutely.
Pretty unique.
Great.
Yes.
Okay, moving right along.
Thank you, Gordon.
Yeah, thank you,
Thank you.
Gordon.
Thank you.
I guess we skipped over the Community Preservation Committee recommendations unless you wanted to move to the close of the warrant.
We can do them together.
Perfect. Then why don't you lead us off, Ryan?
Okay, the primary purpose of this is to show you what articles came in for the special town meeting, and then to get a plan moving forward for what information you need in order to make the recommendations and or include them, because that is something that you decide, whether or not these will be on the warrant or not. So first, the school, a very exciting article, would like to authorize a 5-year contract for busing. 3 years is the minimum, or is the maximum unless town meeting allows it to go further. So a 5-year contract would allow some more pricing stability with busing, assuming the procurement is favorable, because busing just keeps going up and up. And that comes from the school committee, so that is their request.
And they are entering a negotiation period.
Correct.
So the timing is such that they need to negotiate the next contract. Excuse me. So from a timing standpoint, you'd want to do this at this town meeting.
Yeah, hopefully to have costs in place for the spring.
Sounds important.
Next, the Community Preservation Committee received 2 applications. Still working through this process. I was able to attend their meeting on Monday. One is for trails improvements. It was a lengthy conversation about the future of trails and how they are approaching their long-term management. If you were to, and you probably already know this, but look into what they do. It's pretty amazing. So they, for material costs only, have been able to manage the miles and miles of trails we have in town. They've done this primarily through recently CPC funding. So this is their next batch of money for their long-term plan. When they come in, they're going to present their plan to you so you have a better understanding of what that is. But they do a lot with not a lot of funding. Then next, this one is an application that I put in on your behalf for the Connected Carlisle Accessibility Improvements Project. This is the ADA accessible components of the sidewalk project that's going to run up School Street and down Church Street to Stern Street, making a ADA accessible and walkable path along that way. There are specific segments at Spalding and what will be the renovated Diamond Park that are ADA, that need to be more ADA accessible, so there's more expense there. That will allow the full use of both of those recreation facilities. Just in full transparency, this is on the border of CPC eligibility, so we're exploring that, but I thought it was worth trying. And the reason why is CPC discriminates against streets. Thought I would throw that out there. So if you have a sidewalk that's on a beach, they don't care. If it's next to a road, then it's no longer eligible, which I think is, at 9:08, I can say I think that's dumb.
Yeah. What are the dollar numbers associated with these?
20,000 for trails and 100,000 for the accessibility. All right, next is 75 West Street Conservation Cluster property easements. More to follow on that. Normal regulatory vote. TA bylaw cleanup. I know Christine had a question about this as well. Now that the TA bylaw special act is law, there are some elements of our bylaws that are out of date. That doesn't matter because the special act supersedes these, but it probably makes sense to clean some of those up. So one of them, it says that the select board shall appoint a building commissioner, and that is now my appointment. So it's very simple cleanups. You can do that whenever. So if you don't want to do it in the fall, you don't have to. You could do it in the spring. You could never do it. It wouldn't matter, but it is just good government to
So
clean it
it's
up.
cleanup of the rest of the bylaws to align with the town administrator bylaw?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And talking less than 5 changes. It's not significant. And no authorities are changing. You're not passing any new TA bylaw. We'll have to advertise that pretty heavily. Okay, demo review bylaw. If you want to talk about that more tonight, we can. More time? Nope. There's going to be 2 Article 97 articles. 2 Article 97 articles. One is to carve the land out, and the other is to replace it.
Is there any update on this front? Because I know it seems to be getting complicated.
Yeah, it's a complicated little maneuver.
But I mean, and economically, the question is it even going to be viable?
It's being appraised right now, so we'll know that answer this month, and that'll come to you this month, before the end of September, for what would be, I think, a substantive conversation about this.
I did the walk with the appraiser.
You did?
I did. I'm doing stuff.
You on a committee that
Yeah.
Who was there? Oh,
Affordable Housing Trust.
affordable, oh,
gotcha.
great.
Yeah, staff's been out there. We've been walking the land to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
The section of land that's being discussed is the Conant land near Castle Rock, which is a very interesting piece of land with lots of things to protect. And then the Bog House discussion is really trying to limit the carve out to what's necessary. So it's going to be an interesting discussion and project. All right, the next one. So I would really call this a Ferns placeholder, not necessarily funding for Ferns septic feasibility study. It could be that there's some vote needed for Ferns, and we wanted to make sure there was a placeholder on here. So this could be for additional funding. It could be for some legal requirement that's necessary, something. There could also be nothing, and this can come off. But we wanted to make sure that you had a placeholder for something. And then Woodward's Village easements, again, is just something from the planning board, the town planner, to look at. I don't have much more information than that, but I will. So given this, your discussion points are, do you or do you not want to include any or all of these? What is your order for these, for the town meeting? And then recommendations. And specifically, I would like to know, what information do you need or want for each article? And what presentations and or discussions or public hearings or anything at your meetings do you want for each article?
Can you scroll up?
For the land transfers, so they're kind of tied together, right? So I mean, like, what happened if we passed the first one and not the second one? The order of these might matter, right? Or well, carve-out has to happen first, right?
I'm not sure.
Because
But yeah,
like,
if one
that they're
fails and the other doesn't, it's dead. So
Right. Do we have to have them as 2 separate ones? Is that a requirement? Like,
not sure.
okay. Because I would prefer if one and then the other, like if they're tied together to make the whole thing work, then maybe that's one.
Okay.
I mean, you've demo review, Bog House, and potentially Ferns would be the big draws, right?
Right.
And so we've moved to a model of, we used to do like, get some of this, like the consent agenda out of the way first and So if we could take that approach, you would probably do the busing contract, CPC, do a bunch of stuff first and then move on to the other things, or what we did in recent town meetings where it's kind of like get right into the action.
I like the idea of getting
Those done.
the housekeeping items
Yep.
done right out of the way, like the Woodward Village easements. I think, isn't that just a cleanup of something, or is that a complex?
That's what I think, yeah.
Yeah, so that would be, up towards top. You authorize the 5-year contract. That doesn't seem too controversial to me.
I don't think it is,
Yeah.
but
And then, the 75 West Street Conservation Cluster would also be cleanup.
I would point out the Bog House is gonna need a 2/3 vote. So I think you want,
Early.
Put that first.
put that
of-
first, so you have,
After the,
I wouldn't want people to leave, or, not that I think people would leave, but I think a 2/3 vote, you wanna
Yeah,
really,
before the demo, sorry,
well,
guys.
doesn't the demo bylaw, that requires a 2/3
is that
vote?
2/3? Or is it?
Is it zoning?
Isn't it? I don't know, that's a good question.
It is a good question.
Yes, chat. I mean, both of those are gonna need a fair amount of
Fair amount of
deliberate,
time,
yeah.
And the TA bylaw cleanup, that would be right up front, it's just a,
That's gonna need some explanation, but I don't think it ends up being controversial.
right.
Then reviling, town zoning bylaw that regulates demolition of structure, yeah, 2/3 vote.
It's zoning.
Zoning. Woo,
Hmm?
high bar.
It is a
It
high
is
bar.
zoning.
It's preserving.
Yeah. So, yeah, I would, in no particular order,
I think I would do the bylaw cleanup and the easements at the end.
You would.
I would,
does
because if we don't have quorum, then it's not as impactful to let those sit, I think.
which one's the,
The bylaw cleanup and the easements, the 2 easements, not the Bog House, the 75 West and the Woodward Village, because those are cleanup things that if they sit longer, it's.
Does
right.
Woodward need to get done? It probably does, by the selling the units. Does
Oh.
that have something to do with that?
I believe
Is
so.
it-
I don't
it is
know a lot
holding
about
something.
it.
if you
Yeah.
thought these were all 5-minute things, you could
But you're
probably
right,
just
I agree with you about
clear 'em
that
all.
TA bylaw. Well, TA bylaw falls to the bottom,
Sorry.
Ryan.
Ryan.
Here,
You you supersede anyway, so.
here's an interesting question. How does the demo review bylaw impact the Bog House? Like,
We're
do
not,
people,
we're not demoing the Bog House.
We won't.
Oh, you might. You might not demo, you might alter it. If the demo bylaw encompasses any alteration on the exterior
right.
of a
There-
But I didn't think we were altering the envelope,
We're not supposed to.
right?
If we retain control, design control, correct.
Correct. But you could make that a condition of
But
the
you
RFP.
don't, again, this is why I'm getting into this territory of reading. The demo review bylaw, we don't know if you change windows, they may say that's a historic change. You wanna change the windows on this historic structure, then we need to review it. I was gonna ask that question
Wait,
tonight,
but do you-
I mean, I don't know, and that's, again, this huge, wide control they have over anything exterior. So if you wanted to change out the windows of a mid-century modern home and put muttons in them, or.
Well, clearly the Bog House would be a significant historical structure, right?
But,
That would,
Yeah.
hold on, can we go back for a second? Because I think you have to apply for a demolition permit, isn't that? So, do you apply for a demolition permit to change windows? I don't think you do. It's a building permit.
but one path with the Bog House is we let a developer take control and they plow it down and build a new thing, like, that's
Yeah,
one.
that's something, but I think
It's all exterior changes in there. So it's like, interior renovations are not covered by the
Mhm.
demo, but if you want to change, if you have a picture window that is in a historic home and you say, I want to put muttons in between, or vice versa, I want
You
to
need a
change it
demo
out.
permit for that?
No, I think it's only demo
It's only
permits.
for demolition permits.
So I don't think changing a picture
It's
or
a question,
changing the
though, it's
windows
part of
is.
the. But regardless, like, are people, does one of these have an impact on the other? Is there a logical sequence where, or not? Maybe they don't.
I think I don't think the demo review bylaw makes me feel like we shouldn't do that because of the bog house. I just don't think,
I guess I'm wondering, does the
we actually
outcome?
might want the demo review bylaw
Right.
if
In
it goes
place.
to, right.
That's what I mean. Does the outcome of one influence? So in that world, you might want to do bog house before the demo review bylaw.
Oh, so that you're not having a legacy status? That,
I don't know.
It would apply either way.
yeah, it would,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't matter the order you're going to do it. If it passes, it'll apply.
And there, yeah, so,
So I think the bog house is gonna, wow, they're both long and complicated. They could both go quite a long time, I would think. So I don't know that there's clearly one that should go before the other. I think they're both complicated. There'll be a lot of comments, a lot of discussion, a lot of deliberation, 2/3 vote. Potential amendments to the demo bylaw might come up.
Do we have to decide the order tonight?
Nope.
Good, I think we should have the other two
Yeah.
select board members weigh in.
But I would like to get the housekeeping out of the way. Not, if there's a couple that are gonna be quick, get those done and then move into either one of those two, it would be the main events. And to your point, if there's something that we can put later, then we can do that later.
So you heard the outreach plan for the demo review bylaw tonight.
Yep.
You're going to have to make, well, you don't have to, but you probably will be asked to make a recommendation on the demo review bylaw. Do you want to hold a public hearing? What type of discussion do you want to schedule for that? And same with the bog house.
I think.
And that's a
we-
big assumption that you probably want more information on the rest, but maybe you don't need.
Aren't they're holding,
Well, we're gonna need to take opinions on
Yeah.
these too, so.
I don't know that we have to host a public hearing for them, the select board.
You don't, I'm asking if you want to.
As long, I think the respective committees should hold their hearings. So I would want, and I know they're having the coffee meet and greets. I think they had like a hearing in there. Maybe it's not the official hearing, but it's a public presentation Q&A, which is fine. I don't know what's planned for the bog house, but I would expect the planning board would have a similar plan. I don't think we need to host our own public hearings on both of those. I think we should pay attention to those and attend those.
I would defer to the chair, because the chair
Yeah.
is setting the agenda for
Yep.
what our meetings are gonna be.
sorry, my newness is gonna show here, but in the past, when the select board votes to make a recommendation or not for an article, do they normally have, like, bog house folks come and say,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
But it's
so
not a public hearing
Okay.
on the,
Not a public hearing,
to
but.
take feedback and comments. Like, we usually they'll present, we'll ask questions,
Yeah.
we'll deliberate and take a position.
Yeah,
But like MBTA, we didn't host a public hearing. The planning board had like 8 of them.
mm-hmm.
Maybe the question is, what defines a public hearing? Does that mean,
I do think, you're gonna get some people here on both sides of both of these issues that wanna talk to you about it, because they're gonna see your vote as not decisive, but at least swaying.
Yeah.
So how do you wanna shape that? Do you wanna invite people and take input and then discuss, or do you want to just have them in the audience, right? I just wanted to think through so that we can plan how you want to handle public reaction to these and your role in it, which is going to be just positions, really.
Yeah.
Although you are the primary sponsor of the Bog House as the building owner and the landowner.
I think I'd like to hear folks ahead of time, right, before town meeting, before it's a big
Yeah,
mudslinging.
all right.
I'd like to hear it ahead of time, so we know what we're walking into.
Ryan, let's make a point of talking to Christine about,
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
about putting that on.
I also think we, if they have hearings, we could attend and listen into those hearings too.
Yeah.
That's typically how we do it.
Okay.
Takes less time on
Yeah.
our part. We have a lot of things to cover.
And again, we got feedback, again, this might be semantics, but we had feedback on MBTA, but we didn't actually host a hearing.
We weren't central to that. We never took an opinion, I don't even think, except to say that we supported passing one of whatever the.
But I felt like through that process, I had heard plenty of arguments for and against by the time we took a position.
Mhm.
So. Okay, I mean, we have 4 meetings between, five meetings between now and then. We'll probably have to take a position in,
Early October.
so we have 3 meetings.
Well, you'll have the first swing at it in early October, and then
Yep.
my guess is probably another discussion at the end of October.
And we don't know the funding for Ferns. We won't know that until the last minute.
Has anyone, but I would imagine it's you, gone back to that, like I saw their most recent post or something, or maybe it was an email in City in the Woods, and their timeline did not really seem like it aligned very well with our needs for town meeting. So, like, their report, it sounded like, was gonna come very close to when town meeting like their initial, like, first part of that report. So maybe if we could encourage them to pay attention to our dates, reiterate our dates to them.
And they might not be able to get it done in time, though, like.
Well, I mean, maybe they ought to fire up the engineer to get it going faster.
Rebecca, you make a good point, and I think that the people really putting that forward need to, I think, have more education and information on how the system is working here,
Mhm.
because, they're doing a good job of getting, the word out to a bunch of people, but they may not be as informed as to how the different committees are gonna interact, and so I think it would be helpful, but I don't know if we wanna direct staff to do that or not, but I think it would be helpful if, we work to educate them as to how we can best help them. And I don't know if that's saying it right.
Yeah, well, I think at least our drop dead dates for all of the things, like when,
Do they have you had any, or anyone in town had any communication with them about town meeting and the dates and that we have a placeholder?
I have, yep.
And so they generally know if you want to get something on town meeting, it's got to be it's not November 2 days before, it has to be, so that they have that information.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the primary thing I'm working on right now is firming up the data with Weston and Sampson.
Yeah.
So believe it or not, they have hired Weston and Sampson, and we have hired Weston and Sampson to operate, and they didn't know each other. So they're
Weston
big
and Sampson?
enough that it's 2 essentially different entities. At least that's what they're saying. So the
there was a lot of conversation about this last meeting.
Yeah, no, thank you for bringing that up.
I was not here for that, so I didn't.
So the primary thing is the data that was presented publicly is not data that we received as a town. And normally we receive data when a sink is running for too long. So I've
Oh, is this the wastewater?
Yeah, so I have asked Weston and Sampson to clarify, to solve some rumors. And I'm not saying that anything did or did not happen, but if there is illegal dumping or runaway sinks and toilets or whatever, we should know that. And I have a real problem with our operator not knowing that. So we've asked that they clarify the data so that, first of all, that's clear. Because if there is capacity, then it goes in one direction. If there isn't capacity, then it goes in the other. So I think that's, before anyone spends any money, we'd want to know what we know. And then the first phase should decide a good chunk of it. Is this possible or not? Or what is possible? Because if it's only one connection that can happen, you might have a different answer than if a bunch of stuff can be connected in the future. And then I think your primary question should be cost. Where does this fit into capital planning? Who's paying for it, et cetera? Because
Ongoing charges, are we talking about that? Because I think most municipalities, charge per gallon.
yeah, there would be a revenue from this.
Just saying, I haven't heard anybody talk about that yet.
The other question that Rebecca brought up is conflict of interest. So
Yeah.
I asked town council, is there a conflict of interest? And they said that would be on Weston and Sampson to decide. But as far as we're concerned, we're not worried about liability there. They are, or should be.
But your question, I thought, was astute as to the political, ramifications. If it is perceived as a conflict, it may taint people's opinion of the results, right?
Of the
Isn't that
reports,
what
yeah.
you were saying?
Yeah.
I think strategically, solve the data problem, do this initial feasibility study with whoever, and if it says, yes, you can definitely do this, the town would then have to reconfirm with a different engineer that these numbers are correct. So it could go the other way too. They could say, there's no way this is possible, and then we don't have to spend the time and energy on it. I think that's the strategic way to go, is to get this first gate done and then move on. Big gate, though, tough to maneuver, because it's not our money, and we don't have full control over it, so.
There's a lot of support, I think,
Mhm.
or at least interest and support to get this something there. So, I don't know, I'm pushing for it.
Yeah, we're moving.
I think that's true. I also don't know that the support is for the town spending a ton of
That's
money, right?
I
It's like
agree.
the expectation is, like, help that, make sure that, the permits aren't getting held up, or
Right.
like the committees are being timely, but I don't know that it's like, and also
Well,
spend our money.
Yeah, I don't think I've said open
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
floodgates
No.
for spending, but it's more, you're right, in the first example. it's
Yeah.
We're gonna hold up, we're gonna make sure nothing gets held up.
Right.
Okay, can we move on from here? Is there something you needed besides this discussion? Did you need a decision?
No,
You need to close the
but
warrant.
as Scott pointed out, there's 4 meetings. It's gonna come quick. What I don't like is, and it hasn't happened recently, but at the end of your 4th meeting, you're
How
saying,
come we didn't-
we need more information, or why didn't we get a presentation about this? So if there is information you need, tell us now, and we'll get
I
it.
would like ample time on a future agenda to discuss and deliberate and meet, again, with the Historic Commission. We need a big block of time to go through it, ask questions, because I have a lot of questions about it. I don't know what my position is on it yet. I support the idea of a demo bylaw, but there's a lot in there that I have concerns about, so I want the opportunity to have that discussion before taking a position.
We have a couple weeks, but the reason why I asked the question of the Historical Commission that I did is, if this board was to say, if you change these 2 sentences, we'd support it, that's one, like, you need to do that in September. If you're gonna ask your questions, but you already have your mind made up, then that can happen in October. So if we're talking about changing language, it has to be at the end of September. If you're just gonna talk about whether you support it or not on both sides, then that can happen in October. So that's why I asked that, and
Yeah, that's not really, my concerns are more philosophically about the demo bylaw. It's not, I think it should be 12 days, not 7 days, or, like, it's more structural. So I wouldn't expect, I don't expect my decision would be based on some wordsmithing. I really want to understand some of the implications, some of the things we talked about that are inherent in these demo bylaws, not just our bylaw, but in general. it's less about a tweak here and there.
And I'm intending to send my comments
Yeah.
to them
Yep.
and, see what happens.
Yeah. I think to be safe, it'll be the last meeting in September, just so the council has time to review it, and you might have a follow-up.
Yeah, I mean, unless there's something else pressing, these should be the priorities.
I think ferns, we need ferns in front of us probably toward the end.
Yeah.
At the end.
Yeah. We need to know.
We didn't know what they want.
Yeah, if there's something that potentially could go on, getting an early awareness of that is important, just so we know. And, you do a good job through your weekly updates.
Do we need to close the warrant?
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you want anyone make a
Um,
motion to?
Sure. I definitely don't want to add anything, so let's, this is a one-night town meeting, though, I think.
I think even with substantive conversation,
Yeah.
it's a couple hours tops.
I hope so.
I move to close the warrant for the special town meeting scheduled for November 22nd, 2026.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Hold on, I'm sorry.
Oh, just kidding.
Do I need to add some language to that?
I believe it's November 16th.
Oh, yeah, I think you're right.
Okay, you want to make amend?
Nope, we're sticking with.
You just changed it unilaterally.
Sunday before Thanksgiving, okay.
Is it the 16th? Yeah.
It's the 16th.
Move to close the warrant for the special town meeting scheduled for November 16th, 2026.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None.
Okay.
Okay. Caught right back up.
Uh,
No, we didn't.
Got a quick report?
I do. I have my town administrator report for you. The coffee hour last week drew residents interested in discussing the Highland Building, the situation at Ferns, and the ongoing conversation regarding Carlisle's conservation land. So these are not a surprise to you, but these are the things that people are talking about at the coffee hour. The next one I'll be holding is on Tuesday, September 15th at 10:30, right out there on the patio. For HR report, would like to let you know that the BOH, the Board of Health, appointed Janine Bloom, a known name here in town, as the health agent. So her position was reclassified to health agent, and she will be the department head for the Board of Health. The idea behind changing the classification was that the position will grow as as certifications are obtained and it matches the long-term plan for the Board of Health. Next up for the Board of Health is the assistant position, and then addressing all of the positions to include the registered sanitarian and the public health nurse. On Wednesday, August 19th, town staff participated in a full day of professional development and training. I let you know about this. This was designed to meet your training goals and policies while also strengthening our personnel and developing them. The staff received some targeted training. We toured the library, the wastewater treatment plant, which was the highlight of the day for some, Diamond Park, Carlisle Public Schools, and we did all of this on the COHS buses. Thank you for allowing us to take this time and the community's patience as we closed Town Hall. It was a great day, and it ended with ice cream, which is always good. We're currently interviewing for the Community Services Coordinator position. Another round of interviews will be next week, so we hope to have that position filled for you soon. This is the shared position between REC and the COHS. In terms of department updates and information, the culvert design proposal, which is in the packet, is designed to complete four of the town's most critical culverts. You remember that from the report a couple years ago from Nitch. 3 of them are on East Street, and 1 of them is on Toffitt Road. So this funding has already been passed by town meeting, the $300,000 necessary for this proposal. It'll end in construction documents that we can bid and then put these culverts onto the capital plan. So instead of saying a pool of money for the next 4 years, we'll be working to repair essentially a culvert a year. And I did vet with the various permitting boards and niche that these designs would last 4 years or even 6 if you wanted to stretch it out in terms of capital planning. So if you are willing to approve that proposal, then we'll get to work on that with the goal of having something bid for next town meeting. Not the one in November, the one in May.
So you need a motion on that?
Motion?
Move to approve the proposal of niche engineering to complete the design of 3 culverts on East Street and a 4th on Tophet Road, and authorize the town administrator or their designee to execute the contract after review by town council.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. None opposed.
Okay, I already talked about our professional development day, but we're proud of that effort and proud of our staff. For capital project updates, the Connected Carlisle Sidewalk project I presented to the CPC, as I told you earlier in this meeting, to seek funding for the ADA improvements. They definitely demonstrated support for the ADA elements as maybe part of Diamond Park, but they wanted to check the eligibility for the way that I requested this grant funding. The reason for requesting this is we have $600,000 in grant funding. We're projecting the sidewalk project to cost about $900,000. This would help close some of the gap and allow us to do more work. But more to come. We're gonna work with council to see what is eligible, work with the state to see if this is possible. And maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but it's definitely worth trying. For our annual road maintenance, this paving project is going to begin on September 21st, and we'll be providing updates to the community via our normal communication channels and coordinating with the school to make sure there's no disruption with buses. I've told you the list of roads that's happening many times now, and we're excited to get started. For elevator modernization project, it says I have no information, but I actually do. One of the elevators is done, the elevator at the school. There's one last state test that we don't control that's happening on Monday, which means there'll be one day where school is disrupted and the elevator isn't there. So that's pretty good, and a great job captaining that project by Stephen Kinnearney.
Great.
Future CPS projects, you heard some of them from the MFC. The retaining wall, which is funded by a state earmark. The classroom flooring, the garage doors for the facilities, and the main concrete stairway repair are all out to bid currently, and we're hoping to get all those projects done in the fall or early spring. Nothing new on your CPC projects. For building construction projects, I had a meeting today with the contractor, the OPM, myself, and we had a discussion about the end of this project. So it looks like it will be completed by November 1st, the day after Halloween. We are currently negotiating outstanding change orders, the cost to maintain staff there for the next couple months, and to make sure that anything that the committee deems needs to be necessary to be completed can be funded, and that's all within budget. So we believe that we will finish in budget, and it'll be 2 extra months because today was the day it was supposed to be completed. So we're stretching it out a couple months. All of that's being vetted and conducted by your police station building committee. I don't have any firm numbers or updates yet, but that meeting did happen today. And we set a deadline of Monday to have that information complete. Other than that project is going very well and smooth. The construction itself is good, and I would invite a tour before it's finished so you can see the last before and after. Fire station renovation, construction has commenced. We know that very well in Town Hall because it is, well, it's great to hear things happening in town. You know about the public water supply. The committee presented to the Board of Health. The Board of Health said that it will be a public water supply. We made sure that we coordinated with the building commissioner that the project could be permitted while the well is converted to a public water supply, so that is possible. It's going to be a restriction that is placed on the occupancy and not on the permit. So the project is going to continue. There's a little worry that it might get delayed because of that, and it'll be a public water source. Why you should know this, why it's important, is it's going to eat up a chunk of your contingency, a 6-figure chunk of your contingency, closer to 100,000. But it is.
Can I ask what the rationale was to make it a public water supply? Because the last information that the fire station committee had discussed and I thought presented suggested that it didn't meet the requirements to be a public water supply. So was it based on the numbers, or did the Board of Health just decide? Like, what was that decision based on?
The idea that it would be a community room was the crux of the argument. So you would have to make it not a community room for it to not be a public water source.
Okay.
An argument was made that it wouldn't hit the numbers over time, but I think it was always the case that if it was going to be a full-blown community room, that
Okay.
eventually there would have to be.
Because I think I'd been part of those conversations, it could still be a community room and it still wouldn't meet the threshold because you'd have to use it X many days a month. So it seemed like there was more leeway there, but it doesn't sound like that's the case.
Yeah, I think editorializing a little bit, the surprise was that this was going to be a further off decision and not a project requirement.
Right.
I think that was what the main angst at the meeting was, if there
Right.
was angst.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right, at that same meeting, the Board of Health conditioned the library project on a Title V inspection as well. So that is being done, and this is a requirement of occupancy and not permitting. So all the projects are continuing, but the town staff is making sure that the public is protected. All right, for notifications, we did approve one sign. We did deny another. I sent you a note about this. So a sign was going to go up before the meeting. We had about 2 days' notice on this sign. It included language that suggested that certain political aspects was making times not great. So we thought that violated your policy of no political signs without an attendee in the Rotary. Normally, we would bring this to you for a decision, but there wasn't enough time. So we denied the request and told them that they should appeal to you if they disagreed with the decision.
A quick question, I've noticed some political signs being posted on town land, like the side of roads. I'm assuming that's not really appropriate.
Kind of get pulled out.
So if it is town land, we pull it.
Yeah.
If it's in front of someone's house.
Right.
And it's in the easement, we side on freedom of speech and allow the sign to stay.
Yeah.
It's in front of the cemetery. Is that where you're talking?
Along 225,
Yeah.
you know,
As long as it's in front of town land, it should not be there by your policy and should be pulled.
okay.
But if it's in front of someone's house, even though we technically
Exactly.
own the land, we don't touch it.
Politicians and roofers like to put signs everywhere.
Roofers, you can pull it.
Yeah, no, I do. You might see me out there pulling signs.
We're really thoughtful about this. We don't want to violate people's free speech, but we do get a lot of complaints about signs. And
I just separately, I mentioned to Ryan individually that I think, I think his decision-making's great, and I don't worry about this, but I thought and I don't even know if we need a policy, but I think it's a good idea if there is going to be a denial of a sign, to have the chair of the select board know about it, just so that, because it potentially is a political issue then
Mhm.
and stuff, so, I don't know, but I don't know if that takes the requirement, I mean, we have to kind of say that as a board, that we want that as a.
We could also put a condition, like, you need to notify us more than 2 days. Like, we should have some advance notice so you can review it and, when necessary, talk to the select board.
we try to accommodate because we get a lot of late requests.
Sure. He's doing his best. I don't.
No, I'm saying in our policy, we
Oh, no.
might say we require like 5 business days or something
Right,
like that,
right.
too.
But as he's saying, some people come to you and they're like, I forgot my pancake breakfast is, or whatever it is, and so you wanna help people, our residents.
So
Waffles are making the country bad. We've had a pancake breakfast.
Travis and I discussed this, and while there isn't a select board member that I've worked with here that I wouldn't agree that you could delegate that one to, there are examples of delegating to one person and maybe them not deciding in the best interest of the board. So I would just be careful. No matter who you choose, there's going to be some bias.
Well, you suggest just notifying them, not necessarily making a decision.
Right,
Yeah.
because they can't overrule your decision. I'm just saying, so you have someone who knows about it, so that,
There are people who think they can, though.
But your requirement is the board would have to, any change of your decision as a board
Yes.
over, so.
Ideally, my position is representing the entire board,
Right.
not one person.
You just want to, like, somebody to know so that, like, when the person who gets denied calls up and is
Well-
mad, that
I also.
you've got
yeah.
awareness, is that it?
Yeah, that was it, but I also thought, it could be input, but you're right, having one person have input. There was an issue before where, I thought it rose to the level that we should invite the applicant into our meeting, which we did, and I thought it was important to have that discussion, because it set a precedent for what speech we wanted to allow, what we thought was free speech. And I thought that was important to have that discussion, and if it never came up,
Right.
so I don't know. It's just,
In this case, you didn't, even if you wanted to do that, you didn't have time to do it.
Correct.
yeah,
So it's
I'm
like-
not saying he made the bad decision on this.
Yeah.
I'm just saying if it's unusual that you deny something, it's like, we should probably run it up the chain a little bit or something.
Sometimes groups have traditional signs, but then they add something to it that
Yeah.
makes it something that you would at least want to look at. We had the example of I think it was the Easter pancake breakfast, but then they also said, and come to the mass, right? So that triggered at least a conversation with you.
Right.
Whereas in the past, it's just been the egg hunt or something.
Right.
All
In
good
instance-
stuff and worthy of discussion, none
In
of it's bad.
instances like the earlier request that was denied, do you give them feedback to say, you can advertise the meeting, but it can't include?
Yes.
And then, so they have the opportunity to change their sign, and if they can't change their sign, then, I think giving people that feedback is useful. And if, at the end of the day, they don't have time to adjust, then it's kind of back on them.
That's a good point. Okay, it's just.
All right, and 99% of signs,
Yeah.
we just tell you about them because they're there for something
Well, we
great.
used to have to vote on every one, and
Yeah,
we
it was a
said,
lot of
we're
time."
giving it to you. Just take care of it.
Okay, for employee recognition, I just briefly want to say spending a full day learning alongside the staff is one of the great privileges of this job. So it can be difficult to step away. We all have a lot to do, and the employees all have that attitude, I think, at the start of the day. Right? They have much to do, but professionally developing our employees, bringing them together, having them see what each other does by touring facilities and all these different things allows them to understand and to do their jobs better. So I appreciate this board allowing us to do that, the staff engaging it, and it's just great to work with a lot of smart people who are really interested in making the town they work in better. For your upcoming meetings, you're having some more joint meetings or discussions with the Conservation Commission, which will be a very interesting discussion given all the land use things that they're dealing with. The Recreation Commission, who is now sharing an employee with COHS and has a lot of long-term plans themselves for capital. Your ADA assessment is coming before you. The library folks are going to come in and give you an update on their renovation, and then scheduled 3 employee meetings in the next 2 months with you. A state of the police department, a state of the fire department, and a meeting with your treasurer, Sandy Nason, all your appointees.
That's great.
And we got to fit in the town meeting stuff, so. We haven't added a meeting yet this year, but we're packing it all in, which is good. And that is my full report unless there's any questions.
Nope. All right. Review of the warrants. There was there's no motion required, so if there are liaison reports, anyone want to say anything?
Just briefly, it's been a busy summer. I'm between 2 college drop-offs right now, leaving tomorrow. But I am getting to work on some of the goals. I had a good call today with the chair of the school committee to talk about ensuring we're getting the information on the town side we need regarding vocational forecasting. So I'll talk to you about that. And I'm going to meet with Sarah and Megan tomorrow to have an initial discussion about land use and try to start to see how the select board can facilitate that process, and for myself, just get more of an information download from them in terms of the challenges and some of the, not obstacles, but what needs to be accomplished. So I'm eager to have that conversation tomorrow and kick that off.
Great. There's nothing, don't worry.
No, I mean, we've kind of covered it already. I did the 2 CPC meetings that have happened over the past couple weeks, and then the walk with the Affordable Housing Trust for the appraisal for Bog House. There was also the state rep was there, so that was good, actually. I also attended the environmental sustainability meeting. It was more just regular business for them, so
Good. Okay.
You're everywhere.
I'm trying.
So we will end with community input. Is there anyone online who has anything, questions or comments? Seeing none, I take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're done.
Thank you.
Meeting.
night.